There we go. So welcome here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Hope you're having yourselves a fantastic morning this morning. And welcome here to facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Appreciate you being inside the Cafe Kubal studios with us every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time, where sports meets that thing called life. Cafe Kubal here with you in our community on 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, as well as 208 North Townsend Street, all of those locations in Syracuse, New York. And, of course, you can also find them out in Manlius at 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, in the giant behemoth of a brown-striped building. You can find them there with a new expanded parking lot in Manlius, so make sure you head out there for that. You can also see them inside of Golisano's Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, and of course you can find them at their newest location and their first ever drive-through location on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in North Syracuse at Sweetheart Corner. So make sure you check them out there. With that being said, we got a jam-packed, awesome show for you here today. As always, every Thursday in hour number one, we spend that hour with Mr. Papa Joe. This man has his post with us every single Thursday morning from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We appreciate PJ being here with us where sports meets that thing called life, as he is one of my favorite people on the planet and one of the most knowledgeable people when it comes to the world of sports and in this world of life. So definitely appreciate Papa Joe and all that he brings to the show, and I love the fact that I get to share him with you. And, you know, I had him at the table all the time, and then I said, well, I'm being spoiled right now. I get to talk to him at the table, but why don't we make my show like a dinner table and have us all have the conversation? So that's why Papa Joe is here. I'm so honored to have him. And in hour number two at 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time, we'll be joined by fellow sportscaster Chris Heidel, who will be speaking with us on the American Athletic Conference and how they finished their championship between Cincinnati and Houston, as well as the ACC Conference, talking about the Atlantic Coast Conference, speaking on ACC football, how they finished up, what his thoughts are on Pitt and Wake in the championship game, and we move forward into bowl season, as well as his take on the American Athletic and Cincinnati making history. And then we'll finish things off with a video one-on-one conversation with longtime guest on the show and frequent guest on the show, American Athletic Conference Commissioner Mike Aresco will join me on the heels of his conference making history with Cincinnati breaking the proverbial glass ceiling and making it into the college football playoff. So we'll talk about all of that coming up. Three fantastic guests as Cincinnati and the American Athletic make history. So let's bring in the first guest of the show today, and that is none other than the man, the myth, the legend, Papa Joe.
Good morning, Daniel. Nice accolades.
How you doing, P?
What the heck?
How you doing, PJ? What's going on?
Nothing. You know, we're settling in for the holiday season. We had my son and his my granddaughter come over last night, and we erected my Christmas train, which is the first time she's seen something like that. She's only 4, and she's just absolutely ecstatic. She helped me put it together. Of course, Joe was there too. We got it running, and she was just jumping all over the place, happy as can be. So it's good to see kids happy like that during this season, especially with everything, all the junk that happens in the world, even in the country. So we were thankful that Joe and Lily could visit us last night and allow them some good spirits before Christmas comes.
You know, and I got to ask you this, PJ. It's been a long time coming, but it finally happened. You know, you having a meatball number one and him getting married here recently, and now you officially have a grandchild. What is it like to finally be a grandpa?
Oh, geez, I don't know what to say without getting emotional. It's overwhelming. She's just a ball of fire. She's a peppy little thing. She just bounces everywhere. And Kayla, you know, the mom is not very big, and Lily's not going to be very big either. And she's just a little ball of fire. She rolls everywhere, jumps everywhere. hard to keep her still, but that's what being a 4-year-old is about. And Mary and I are very gracious and thankful that the kids got together and allowed us to really cherish our little grandchild.
Speaking here with Papa Joe on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora and his normal post every Thursday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. Eastern Time. Being a grandpa finally and having this moment, what are you most looking forward to at Christmas? Because it's such a, it's such a beautiful remembrance holiday of Jesus, of why we're here, of where we're trying to get to. I mean, there's so much beauty and faith and love in the spirit of Christmas and the holiday of Christmas. So what are you most looking forward to do? Or did you already do it? Was it putting the train set together?
Oh, well, we have some other things. I put some lights on the outside yet still, and Mary put up her nativity set, her large nativity set in the dining room here, and she and Lily were going over the characters, and Lily's going to be a Christian, so she understands what's happening. What can you say? I mean, this is the season we all have to be thankful for our Lord Jesus Christ, God. So, we have to live a pure life and get the Gators a win, for crying out loud.
and so we'll start there with Billy Napier and your thoughts on Billy coming in, obviously with Dan Mullen being let go. There is going to be a change to the staff. Billy Napier is going to want to bring in his guys. So how are you looking at how things are going so far for Billy in Gainesville?
I'm still upset. Mullen should have seen this coming, and he should have adjusted. He should have done a better job. But that's water over the bridge. So we gotta look forward to Billy Napier, who's a first-class guy, good recruiter, good coach. I mean, he's a proven success. I mean, this guy's not a loser by any chance. And he's recruiting his own staff to get here. He's been on a recruiting trail for players for the last 2 weeks, and unfortunately, that hasn't gone over too well. We've lost 3 4-stars and 2 3-stars. We've gone from number 14 in the recruiting rankings down to 77, behind Syracuse of all people. So,
well, let me be real with you. Syracuse only has 10 commits right now. They have 14 in the transfer portal, and they have 9 moving on. So Dino's got to fill half a roster, like 40 to 45 guys. So you may be behind them in the rankings, but I don't think you need to worry.
Well, Florida only has 7.
So, right.
It's not going good. But the good is that he hired Corey Raymond, who is really a super 5-star recruit from LSU, and he was the one responsible for all the 5-star and 4-stars that came to Ed Orgeron. So I'm glad we could steal him away from the new coach and join Billy Napier. Obviously, Billy knows him, or he wouldn't have hired him. So I'm still looking for offensive, defensive coordinators yet. But first thing first, Billy Napier's got to sell himself. He's got to travel the state. He's got to hustle some signees. I don't look for Florida to sign too many during the early signing period. I think that's a little bit too much to hope for, unless he really snows some kids over. But maybe revisit the kids that have already decommitted. Maybe he can talk some of those kids into coming in. I know we're going to have a hell of a quarterback in Anthony Richardson, so if you're going to be an offensive player, you probably want to play for Florida. But, the rest of the ACC doesn't feel sorry for Florida, just like ACC didn't feel sorry for FSU. So they keep beating him down, and he's going to have to rise. I'm going to see what he's made of. This is a first-class guy, though. I'm excited about him. I've listened to him before. He's a good speaker, and he can coach. So, he just got to recruit, and he's a good recruiter, apparently. I mean, look what he did at Louisiana. I mean, 4 years in a row, he's won over 10 games. I mean, he won his conference championship when they beat Appalachian State. He's probably going to stay here for our bowl game. I know he's not. I don't know if he's going to coach in his bowl game. I haven't heard that yet. So we're looking forward to Billy Napier coming. He's already settled in Gainesville. He's already got himself a house, and he's on the road recruiting. So let's see where that goes.
We look at the fact that Randy Shannon, who is connected to Scott Frost at UCF, is going to potentially stay in the state of Florida now and join Mike Norvell, who he coached against when Mike Norvell was at Memphis and Randy was at UCF, and Mike Norvell was the head coach there. Now Mike Norvell at Florida State. What do you think about that hire for Mike Norvell to bring in Randy Shannon?
Oh, Randy Shannon's been a first-class coach for many years. Plus, he's a good recruiter, too. And, some of these players that have decommitted, not only at Florida, but other schools, at the LSU, Oklahoma, Notre Dame, once their primary coach is gone, who really probably they were responsible for recruiting these kids, they're the ones that are out in the lurch there and waiting to be signed somewhere. So it's not like they're dead. It's just that they got to go back out and re-hustle these kids. Mike Norvell's going to have a hell of a team coming up this year. I predicted this the third year he would have a really good team and really vie for a ACC championship, and I think he's going to do it. And you heard it here first on Papa J. He's going to have a top 10 recruiting class. He's got 3 or 4 kids that he's just waiting to sign that are already sort of like committed, but not really committed, but are going to swing his way. And there's 2 of the 5 that Florida lost that are going to probably be thought of equally fine by FSU. So Mike Norvell is with Randy Shannon and his crew. They're going to be up, and Florida's going to be going down. And that's college football. I mean, if you don't win every year and you don't do what you're supposed to do, you're going to lose your coach and you're going to lose a hell of a lot of recruits. 3 years ago, we said the same thing at FSU, and Florida was up, and now it's just vice versa. Now, in another big 3, Miami lost their coach, Manny Diaz, and got the coach that everyone thought was going to go there to begin with, Cristobal from Oregon. A guy comes across country to go to his alma mater where he's coached and he played as an All-American.
Yeah.
Now, how good is that? I mean, that is awesome. I mean, Florida and Florida State are going to feel his presence really, really fast because obviously he's a hell of a coach, and he's going to recruit that fertile Miami area where you can feel the college football team just in 5 or 6 high schools if they qualify. So things are happening in Florida. Montreal and Cristobal are probably going to be up, and Florida's going to be down. So that's it in college football in Florida. The other schools are going to be hanging on, looking for the chum that didn't make it to the big guys. So I think Florida plays UCF in one of the cheap bowls. So we'll see how that goes.
Well, yeah, and here's the thing, the whole notion that when athletics director Danny White was there allegedly there was this Florida UCF thing on the table, and that he turned down allegedly. And now with the new AD in place, they accepted the Florida UCF games here, non-conference games. They're going to count in future regular seasons, but we get to see it sooner in this bowl game. I believe it's the Gasparilla Bowl, where UCF will take on Florida. So we're going to see UCF in Florida earlier. So they're technically going to play 4 times in the not too distant future, which I'm excited about. What do you think about the fact that we're going to get to see UCF Florida in a bowl game, and we're going to get to see UCF Florida for years to come here as well?
Well, a couple of years ago, this game, well, I can't say a couple of years ago because UCF had a hell of a team a couple of years ago, but maybe last year and this year, the teams really would not be competitive, frankly. Now, with the portal working for all these kids, these kids are moving around like free in baseball. It's going to be good to see it. It would have never been a competitive game if Florida had landed up where they are. And frankly, I think Florida is a 7.5-point favorite, and you could really justify them being a pick'em game with a UCF. So don't feel sorry for Florida. UCF's probably going to play them really tough, and we'll see what Billy Napier's made of.
Well, and the thing is too is don't forget Gus Malzahn's the coach now, and he coached at Auburn, and he knows exactly what it's like to face UCF when nobody gives him any respect or credit, and they got spanked. So, he couldn't beat them, so he joined them, and now, we got a former SEC coach coaching against Florida with UCF, going up against Billy Napier's Gus Malzahn. So don't forget that. Former Auburn coach is at UCF now. So, there's that going on. You brought up a couple different things. One of the things I wanted to get to is to lose a recruit is tough. But in the state of Florida, to lose a Florida Gator recruit to Florida State has got to hurt twice. Is that fair to say?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've been the foe and the enemy for years. I mean, even back to the Bobby Bowden, Steve Spurrier days. Most of the kids I can't say most, I would say, yeah, most of the kids in Florida want to go to either FSU or Florida. And then whatever puffs their ego up the biggest is going to get them. So, FSU is going to be crowing an awful lot because they got a good recruiting class now, and they're going to have a better one by the time the signing period ends. So look for FSU to have a top 10 recruiting class, and Florida's probably going to be around number 50. But, you can have all the stars you want. You still got to get on the field, and you still got to play.
Yeah, in these bowl games coming up here very soon, the first bowl game is on December 17th, believe it or not. And that game is the Bahamas Bowl, Middle Tennessee and Toledo. Poor them, they have to go to Nassau, Bahamas to play the game. So I'll go play for them if they want me to. So, to head out there. I might have to play for Syracuse with them needing half a team with eligibility, guys moving on, as well as 14 in the transfer portal, as well as needing to get true freshmen as well. They may have to call alumni, which they never do, and ask them to play, which they won't because they never call them. But, maybe they'll have open tryouts like the Philadelphia Eagles had a few years back. So, PJ, speaking here with Papa Joe on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. To go back to some of the stuff you were saying about the Gators and whatnot, Dan Mullen, it was such a short-lived time in Florida. There was this notion of, he was supposed to be the future. He was supposed to be, the guy that was, going to kind of lead us through and see, what he can do as he builds with this program. Probably, I thought more that he was going to be the guy to come in, be successful, recruit well, and that somebody was going to try and poach him away. But it happens the opposite. Jim McElwain is let go, and Dan Mullen ends up spending 3 seasons and then two this last season-ish before Greg Knox took over. So he didn't even spend a full 4 years there. When we look back on the Dan Mullen era at Florida, how surprised are you that after Jim McElwain and all the pile of garbage that was kind of left after that, here's Dan Mullen, who we think is going to be the garbage collector, clean this thing up and get the streets all paved nicely, and then after 3 years and some change, he's gone. I mean, how underwhelming was this Dan Mullen hire for what you thought it was going to be?
I don't think it was underwhelming. I mean, he was a legitimate hire. I mean, he was part of Florida's team several years ago with Steve Spurrier, I think. Urban Meyer, I think, when he was the offensive coordinator. And he had a good run at Mississippi State where he won a lot of games, not against the really tough guys, but enough to put him on the map. And, if you play a damn team, you're going to have a tough game. So I thought it was a natural hire, and he was coming back home and all this other kind of stuff, and he couldn't wait to get here, and he's a hell of a recruiter, and the first 3 years did well. He won 10 games more than 3 years in a row and won the bowls. When I saw their effort against Oklahoma last year's bowl game, where they absolutely laid an egg, they weren't even competitive. They weren't even halfway competitive. I thought to myself, I said, something's not right here. This isn't right. And the more I delved into it, the more I looked into it and researched it and called some of my Gator buddies. The school was not enamored with Dan anymore, especially even before that game. So, I don't know, he ruffled feathers somehow. I don't know how. I mean, how can you screw up being a coach at the University of Florida when you got all these kids who want to play for it? So, then this year started out good, and he kept the kids up, and they were playing well, they were doing well, they were in school, there was no discipline problems, and they had a hell of a game against Alabama. And, I think that was the game that really, besides the Oklahoma game last year, that was the game that really turned him down. I mean, after that it was all downhill. And I don't know why. I still don't understand why he couldn't make it work. I mean, he could have gotten. I mean, so what if he's 7-5 this year, or 8-5, or 7-6, or whatever? You know, I mean, he probably could have saved his job, but it wasn't to be. And I guess Hutch Strickland, the AD, had seen enough. There's a lot to it, a lot more to it than just wins and losses. For some reason, he wasn't doing the job over there, recruiting and everything. And as much as Dan likes to talk, you would think that Dan likes to recruit. Well, recruiting, he doesn't like to recruit. I mean, it's strong for him because he likes to talk. But he wasn't too crazy about driving all over the world trying to hustle these kids. So I think it beat him down a little bit, and Alabama beat him down a little bit, and I think he just sort of gave up, Dan. He said he gave up on the kids. The kids didn't give up, but he gave up on the kids, and you could see the demeanor, his demeanor, and his walk, his facial expression. He just wasn't the Dan Mullen of old, the Dan Mullen of recent years. So it's not a very pleasurable experience, and unfortunately, the Gator Nation, who's looking at this throughout the country, saying, "Man, what's up with Mullen? What's up with him? What's going on, Joe?" And he gave up on the kids, Dan.
It was a very tough. I mean, I just remember, and I can't believe it was 4 years ago, but I remember you and I talking about this. I remember you being excited. I remember being at the kitchen table down with you in the great state of Florida, and just going over what the future could hold. And now, you know, here it is with somebody else sitting there, and it's strange how fast it just went away, that this Dan Mullen thing just didn't come through. They stole him away from another SEC school, and you thought, okay, this is going to be time for him to really show himself and to, you know, bring this Florida Gators team out of all the turmoil that came during the Jim McElwain era, and it didn't work out. And so now here's Billy Napier, and Billy's got to understand, you got about 3 years, and that's really what it is. So, you know, that's reality, and unfortunately that's where the team's at right now. So with that being said, speaking on the Gators and speaking on what's happening in college football, very excited to continue the conversation with Papa Joe, as all three of my guests today, my trio of guests, are all going to speak on Cincinnati and the American Athletic Conference making history in the college football playoff. That comes up after this fast break, where sports meets life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. Thank you so much for listening and watching here inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios on Facebook, MixLR, YouTube, and of course on wakeupcalldt.com. We appreciate you so very much. We ask you to always support our Central and Upstate New York partners, as well as our multimedia marketing partners in Lemoyne at LeMoyneDolphins.com, and of course by going to MarywoodPacers.com for our multimedia marketing partnership with them as well.
Carvel DeWitt, it's what happy tastes like. Do you know why? Because we make ice cream. Creamy, rich, flavorful ice cream. Not yogurt or iced milk like some of our competitors. Ice cream. Fresh, by hand, daily. For the calorie conscious, we have something new for you. Our new Carvelite. Same great flavor, creaminess, and texture of our regular ice cream with only 35 calories an ounce. So whether you want an ice cream cake, flying saucer, dasher, carvalanche, hard or soft ice cream, we will satisfy your craving with our fresh, handmade regular or new Carvelite ice cream. Carvel DeWitt. It's what happy tastes like.
Cafe Kubal offers same-day local delivery of our products, offering no delivery charge for Onondaga County. Shop cafekubal.com for fresh roasted coffee beans, cold brew, travel mugs, and all your essential Cafe Kubal needs. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is located on 3680 Milton Avenue in the Home Depot Plaza. It is your family-friendly sports bar and restaurant. Folks, some sports bars aren't family friendly. Some family friendly restaurants are not sports bars. The Wildcat Sports Pub in Camillus, New York is proud to be both. It is that marriage that you've been looking for years. The Wildcat Sports Pub is your home base for your sports bar and restaurant needs, games for the kids, indoor and outdoor activities, and enough things on the menu to come back every single week and get to try something new. They're open Sundays from noon to 8 p.m., Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 11 p.m., and Thursday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to midnight. For reservations and party information, call 315-487-2222 for the Wildcat family-friendly sports pub and restaurant. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be hanging out with you inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Cafe Kubal with locations on 3501 James Street, 324 West Water Street, 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street, all in the great city of Syracuse, my hometown. And, of course, you could find them inside of Galizanos Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. And you can find them out in Manlius at 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York. And they're now serving Cafe Kubal inside of one of my also fantastic partners, PB&J's Lunchbox. So when you head out there Monday through Saturday for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you can grab yourself a cup of Joe from Cafe Kubal. And speaking of Joe, Papa Joe here with us in hour number 1 on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Thursday. And our first guest of a trio today that will speak on the successes of the Cincinnati Bearcats and the American Athletic Conference making history. And Papa Joe we have some other things to discuss as well. He told me during the break he's got one more thing he needs to say about them Gators. So PJ, you have the floor.
Okay, well, if you've heard me over the years, and your listening audience has heard me over the years, really pound on the Big Ten and how they're not competitive against the bigger, faster teams in the SEC. I think that the nation's starting to catch up to the style of play that the SEC play, faster and lighter and meaner. And I think the Big Ten is doing a really good job. I have a difficult time for me to say that because I don't like the Big Ten, but I do have to admit that they're playing better, they're playing faster, and the SEC is so damn hard to play in and so hard to win that a guy with the credentials that Dan Mullen has one little blip, and they throw his ass out the door, and he gets $29,000 million to go take a hike. I mean, it's hard to win. Now you got Oklahoma and Texas coming to this conference. I mean, you might as well have the East Division and the West Division of the NFL. I mean, these teams are going to be awesome. So, notwithstanding the fact that the Big Ten is creeping up a little bit, they're still not in this class of the SEC, but they're doing a hell of a job. And looks like yearly we have an Ohio State or a Michigan or Michigan State somewhere along the line there that are playing good enough to perhaps play for a championship. But, you know, when you look at the Final Four, with Cincinnati being there, you got Alabama, Georgia. So if you saw the game, you saw absolutely powerful Alabama team win. Mary and I were watching a game, and Georgia scored 10 quick points. It was 10-0. And Alabama had the ball on their own 2-yard line. I looked over at MT, and I said, MT, if they don't score on this drive, it's over with.
Yeah.
It's over with. So what does Chase Young do? He goes 98 yards, and then the floodgates open up. And I think Kirby Smart is trying to figure out, if I can't stop them 98 yards, how am I going to stop them for the rest of the game? And he did against a superb Georgia defense. Well, Michigan's going to have a look at the superb Georgia's defense. So the Big Four are going to have some. they're going to be good games. I hope that they're competitive. I hope that Cincinnati is competitive. I don't think so, but Cincinnati is going to be looking at a whole different animal. You know, I don't know what the point line is. It's probably 10 or 11 or 2 touchdowns or something. But Cincinnati shouldn't be afraid. They did a hell of a job, and they're competitive with any team in the country right now, except maybe Alabama and Georgia.
Well, you know, looking at this, I have a lot of things to say going off your point here. The reality, to me, in what we're looking at with the college football playoff is that, of course, you know, Alabama and Georgia are the, you know, favorites to win this. The line right now on the games, Alabama's favored by 13.5, so a couple touchdowns over Cincinnati. Georgia's favored by 7, a touchdown. So you see at least a touchdown of separation in both of these games for Alabama and Georgia. Looking at this, though, few things to say. I predicted the field. I predicted 1 through 4. And I've said this on the show before, and this is how I predicted it. I knew an SEC team was going to get 1 because the SEC, out of everybody that the College Football Playoff Committee favors, the SEC has actually done the body of work. And so and I'm not saying that Michigan didn't do any work because the Big Ten is favored. I'm saying that the number 1 spot that's for the SECs to take. Now, Georgia is the number 1 team in the country. They got beat by Alabama, and it's what have you done for me lately? Now, not always. You can go back to my show with Isaac, and I'm going to be sharing that all month long about the crookedness of the College Football Playoff Committee, that they're supposed to follow a list of criteria, and beyond all that criteria, they can do something called the eye test. If they think a team looks good or if they look better, and then that can take out all the other criteria just based on their personal opinion. So, and you know, we see that happen all the time with how they treat the Big Ten and whatnot. So, when Georgia lost to Alabama, I knew Alabama was going to flip. That's why I put them 1. I knew that Michigan was not going to take 1. Most of you believe that. A little tiny bit of belief, like 10% of me thought, maybe. But Michigan, to me, again, hasn't done the body of work. Ohio State, they beat, that's good. And Iowa, who didn't look that great at the end of the year, okay. But beyond that, they didn't do anything spectacular. So I look at that and say, okay, they're going to put Michigan 2. They're going to put Georgia 3 because they have no respect for Cincinnati. And they're going to let Cincinnati come in and play Alabama, hoping that Alabama kills Cincinnati so that they could tell Cincinnati, don't ever ask to come again. So that's how I created my field. Now, do I think the College Football Playoff Committee got it right for the first time in its existence? Yes. Do I think that it's finally, I can look 1 through 4 and say, I don't disagree with the 4 teams that made it? Yes, I knew a Big Ten team was going to make it. Now, here's my thought on that. I said weeks ago, PJ, and you can attest to this, I said with 3 weeks to play, Michigan and Michigan State have to play Ohio State. If Michigan or Michigan State goes undefeated in those 3 games, including beating Ohio State, they will take Ohio State's spot in the college football playoff. If Ohio State wins out and beats them, they will be in the college football playoff. But whoever beats Ohio State between Michigan and Michigan State and goes undefeated in those 3 games to end the season is going to make the college football playoff. Michigan did that, and Michigan's in the college football playoff. So, you know, the Big Ten, Michigan didn't do anything in the beginning of the season. They beat 6 unranked teams and became the 6th ranked team in the country, which made no sense. And Michigan State lost to Purdue and stayed in the top 10, and Purdue wasn't even ranked. So there's Michigan State wasn't that. I mean, the thing is, they ranked them so high that Michigan and Michigan State looked like they were great teams, but until Michigan beat Ohio State, they hadn't done anything. And I commend them for beating Ohio State. I will not take it away from them for beating Ohio State. But I think the College Football Playoff Committee finally got it right, because I knew Georgia was going to make it. I knew Alabama was going to make it, because they're the only 2-loss team in America that could. If they somehow lost to Georgia by a field goal or by a touchdown, the committee would call it a quality loss, which they wouldn't do for anybody else. I knew the Big Ten was going to make it, and I knew Cincinnati deserved to make it as the only undefeated team of 130 FBS schools in the United States of America. So, for the first time ever, I think the committee actually did the right thing.
I sort of agree with you and sort of not agree with you. I do admit that Cincinnati has played great ball this year, and watching the Ohio State game, the Notre Dame game, they beat a good Notre Dame team. And the only reason they're playing, frankly, in the top four is that the fifth team in consideration here is Notre Dame. The world would have a snippet if Notre Dame had jumped it past Cincinnati and got in the top four after Cincinnati beat them.
Yeah.
It's a fair thing they did. They did the fair thing. Notre Dame was not going to be in that four, which is why Kelly took a off. He wasn't going to hang around because he knew he wasn't going to be able to play for a national championship. His recruiting class was hurt a bit, not a lot, not as much as Florida. When the kids they have a chance to go to Notre Dame, they jump at it whether the coach comes by or not. So it's legitimate. I call it 3.5 teams. Cincinnati. I can't give them enough credit. They deserve what they're doing, but they're going to have a different animal to face. This is not going to be your normal AAF school. This is Alabama or Georgia, whatever. I want to see how they're gonna react. And frankly, I thought. I really felt that Luke Fickell was going to take a job, and he may still he's going to take a job, but he was a natural for the Notre Dame job. And what did they do? They promoted some. What else? Luke Fickell deserves a big job with multi-million dollars a year. He deserves that. Whether he feels that way or he feels the allegiance to Cincinnati, he feels that. I'm not going to dispute him. I'm not going to argue with him. But if he were to come to a school that will pay him $6 or $7 or $8 million a year, Cincinnati can't do that, Daniel. They can't pay that kind of money. So let's just hope that Cincinnati is competitive on the field, because if they're competitive on the field, then that means that things will be a little more status quo with the selection committee. Maybe they wouldn't be so hesitant to put a smaller school in there. So let's wish Cincinnati luck, because they're going to need it.
Well, here's the thing. Cincinnati, and people forget this, January 1st, 2021, first day of this year. First day of my year. My favorite number is 21, so this, every year is my year, but this is my number year. I promised myself, after not traveling in 2020 due to the pandemic, that I would not sit. If I didn't have to, I wouldn't. And so I said, in 2021, I'm going to travel. The first day of 2021, I called you and Miss Mary T. I got in touch with you guys, and I told you, I'm going to Atlanta. And I flew down to Atlanta, to the Mercedes-Benz Stadium, where I've been before. Peach Bowl, Inc., fantastic organization, led by Gary Stokin, who's a friend of mine. And I went down to the Chick-fil-A kickoff game a few years back with Alabama and Florida State. And this time around, for the Peach Bowl to end last season, 2020-2021, I went down to see, in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, which is one of the 6 bowls in the rotator for the college football playoff, I got to see Georgia-Cincinnati. Now, my 4 last year included Texas A&M and Cincinnati. They did not make it. I made a case for Cincinnati over Notre Dame, and ironically, they played Notre Dame, beat Notre Dame, and got over Notre Dame this time. In that game, in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl to end last season, Cincinnati led the game about 85% of the way. And 85% of the way. And in the last couple possessions, they struggled to stop the pass. Georgia won by a field goal at the end of the game. They didn't blow anybody out. They didn't do anything crazy. The game ends and people are like, see, the SEC, now go where you belong. You don't belong with the SEC. They just schooled you. I'm like, no, they didn't. They made a field goal at the end of the game. They didn't school nobody. They barely beat Cincinnati. So when people say the stage is too big for Cincinnati, I say it wasn't too big for them against Georgia. And if I'm correct, which I believe I am, Georgia had some of the players on last year's team that are on this year's team. And not only that, but Georgia also had the same coach in Kirby Smart. So if that coach and those players played Cincinnati and Luke Fickell and barely beat Cincinnati, then I think Cincinnati already knows what it's like to do it. And Cincinnati's tested themselves. They played the UCLAs and the Notre Dames. They pushed themselves in non-conference play to go out there and play teams. They played Ohio State and challenge themselves. Some games they won, some games they didn't, but they challenged themselves. Luke Fickell has been getting himself ready, and they played that Georgia game all the way down to the wire, and I was really hoping they could just squeak it out because they were right there to win that thing, and then people would have said Georgia players didn't want to play and they were tired and blah, blah, BS. But here we are again. Now they have Alabama of the SEC. Georgia and Alabama, two strong teams on the same line this year, I think people would argue. So if they could hang with Kirby Smart and Georgia last season, then I don't think they're going to walk into this Alabama game and just get trounced. Now, mind you, Alabama got blown out by Clemson. So here's my thing that I want to preface with people. If Cincinnati gets blown out, Alabama's been blown out. If Cincinnati scores 0, which I don't think they will, Ohio State scored 0. If Cincinnati gets embarrassed, Notre Dame, Washington, Ohio State, and the list goes on, have been embarrassed in the college football playoff. Unless Cincinnati can score negative points, they can't look worse than some of the other teams that have played in it. But I'm going to tell you, when it comes to are they ready to play on this stage, are they prepared, they only care about them. They care about what they do, how they prepare, and what goes on. I love what Luke Fickell has done. I commend him on his efforts. I love that Desmond Ridder and other guys came back to make this thing happen. And I am more than excited to see this. I know that it's easy to pick Alabama in this game, but I am excited about the fact that they almost beat Georgia. And if somehow they win this game, they could get Georgia again and have a rematch, which I'd be ecstatic about. But beyond anything, PJ, I think Cincinnati is not looking at this as David and Goliath. I think Cincinnati's looking at this as us versus them.
That's true. I mean, look, they deserve it. I'm not going to argue that. That's for sure. Just a different class of athlete on the field, Daniel. I mean, you can see if you watch as much as SAP football that I do, and you see the way that the speed of the game is. I thought that Georgia was really going to put the hammer to Alabama, and after the 10 points, I said, this is a dangerous situation to be in, but it didn't turn out to be dangerous because Alabama just rolled tide. I think that Cincinnati will be competitive. I think it'll be a closer game than 14 points. I don't think they'll win, but I think it'll be. I think they'll acquit themselves. They'll be fine. And if Fickell lands a job after this game, whether he wins or loses, he deserves it. I don't know what job he could be waiting for out there, but there are a few big jobs that are still open, and I think his name is probably on the top of the list of all those ADs. So whether he's keeping things under his hat or Cincinnati's keeping things under their hat remains to be seen. So he's well thought of, that's for sure. I know in the coaching community, and he's a brilliant offensive coach. So we'll see what happens, and I wish him luck.
Yeah, I wish him incredible luck. I mean, Luke Fickell in his time at Cincinnati came in to a program that was reeling and went 4-8 in his first season. After that, he went 11-2 and won a bowl game. 11-3, won a conference championship and a bowl game. 11-3, made it to the conference championship, lost it to Memphis, and then won the bowl game. 9-1 last year in the COVID year, and went to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl I was talking about against Georgia after winning the conference championship. This year, 13-0, and went to the conference championship and won it. So they've been to the AAC championship in the last 3 seasons combined, 3, back-to-back-to-back. They've won the last 2 back-to-back, and now they're 13-0 for the first time, I believe, in program history. So since Luke Fickell has come to Cincinnati, he's had 4 winning seasons in a row after starting out with a losing season. That's how it's supposed to go. A coach is supposed to come in and then, get acclimated, get your feet wet, figure out what the environment is, how you got to change the culture, what you have to do to make things better. So you expect them to lose in the beginning. See, Syracuse, it's the opposite. Syracuse, it's like 4-8, 5-7 all the time. But with Luke Fickell, look at how good he was. He had 1 losing season, 1 4-8. And then since then, it's been double-digit wins for 3 out of 4 seasons and 9-1 in the other season in the COVID year. And the only loss was in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl by a field goal to Georgia. So, to me, I'm looking at Luke Fickell saying, what a great hire, what a fantastic coach, what a guy who turns around a program in a half a millisecond. You know, I would think Florida would look to somebody like him. But as we look at things right now, a lot of these jobs are taken up. The Oregon job is still open. And I'm looking at some of the other ones here. The Nevada job is open. The Oregon job is open. And Virginia's open currently. And then outside of that, I mean, there's really not much. Everything else is pretty much taken up as far as, you know, I would think the Oregon job would be the only job that Luke Fickell could be looking at right now if he was looking anywhere in college football. But he stayed in Cincinnati. No matter what anybody said, what the media has prognosticated, not me, he stayed in Cincinnati. And, you know, not Notre Dame, not Florida, not this, not that, not Oklahoma. He is where he is. And I commend him for being a coach who told me he wanted to build the program and that his family enjoyed it. You know, his wife and his kids, and that means something to them that they're getting acclimated there and like Cincinnati. I love that he's staying there. I love that he stayed at Cincinnati, and for this time he's been in the American Athletic Conference. I think it's been great for the conference. I think it's been great for the school, and I think it's fantastic to actually see a coach not leave to go to the quote-unquote Power 5. It's just nice to see that he's not one of those coaches that spent a few seasons, you know, kind of auditioning and then took a job somewhere else. I like that he's in Cincinnati.
Yeah. You know, I think LSU is still open, isn't it? Isn't LSU coach still? They don't name.
No, Brian Kelly.
Right,
Brian Kelly.
Yep. Right. You know, I equate Cincinnati's situation with Boise State several years ago, where they started winning 12-1, 13-0, and they wound up beating Auburn in a big bowl, and they thought, well, Boise State has arrived, and they're going to be one of the newer teams coming forward. Well, they sort of flamed out, and after the coaches left, several of them left, Chris Peterson being one. And, you know, now Boise State is back to where they're, you know, just the run-of-the-mill team. And I hope that doesn't happen to Cincinnati, but this is the way I feel about it. Cincinnati has played well. They deserve their ranking. They deserve to be in this bowl game to show the country that they're for real. If they're not for real, it's sort of like reminds me of the Boise State thing. So we'll put it to bed that way and hope that they're competitive and allow them to play for the national championship.
Yeah, you know, and I'm very, very excited. Very excited to see, you know, this college football playoff. And as we get closer to bowl season, you and I are going to be making our picks. So as of next, so this is December 9th. A week from now will be December 16th, which will officially be the day before the bowl games start. So, PJ, I'm going to challenge you to do this, and I'm going to tell you a week in advance. You and I are going to pick the winner of all 42 games.
Oh, my goodness.
So we're going to run the gamut, and I'm going to let you all know here, we are going to go from the first bowl game, which is December 17th, which is the Bahamas Bowl, all the way to the college football playoff, and give you our thoughts on that. And yeah, because college football playoff national championship is on Monday, January 10th. So we're going to go all the way through, and we're going to pick every single bowl game, including the college football playoffs. Are you ready to go bowl crazy with me?
Yeah, I can do that. I'm starting to look them up right now. So yeah, that'll take us an hour to do that. My goodness.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
So our job is to research all those teams that are out there, at least know something about something. So last thing, PJ, you brought it up, Mario Cristobal getting hired in Miami. Here is, and I spoke about this during the show this week and spoke about it in my wake-up call special outside of our normal broadcast time of 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. when I did a nighttime broadcast with Isaac Elford, who's been hired to the team here at Wake Up Call, and with Dan Tortora Broadcast Media. Fantastic guy, awesome guy in the sports world, and just a better person. We were talking about Mario Cristobal and the irony of this, and I'm gonna go back in time, and I'm gonna tell you something that makes it even more ironic. So let's follow the bouncing ball. Manny Diaz who was the D coordinator at Miami, left Miami to accept the job at Temple when Matt Rule left Temple for Baylor. When Manny Diaz went to take that job, Mark Richt, shortly after, resigned from Miami. The plane on the way from Miami to Philadelphia either turned around midair or it touched down and left. But I don't even know if that plane touched down in Temple. Manny had agreed to terms with Temple, and Miami goes, hey, Mark Richt's gone. We want you to come back. They didn't care about the deal with Temple. I think they may have paid off whatever they had to pay Temple. And they told Manny, hey, I know you accepted the Temple job, but we want you. So he turns down Temple, gives his word back, screws them over, and comes back to Miami. And now just a couple seasons later, Miami screws him while he's the head coach when they're going after Mario Cristobal, who's at Oregon. So Manny's recruiting and there as the head coach while they're negotiating with Mario Cristobal. They hire Cristobal, fire Manny, and now the Temple job is open again. So maybe Manny can finally go there. What do you think about that?
Well, frankly, Manny he deserves what happened to him. He went on the record a couple days ago saying he's really not happy the way things have happened here. Well, Manny, what you did at Temple was what they're doing to you now. They knew that they were going to hire Cristobal, and Manny's hearing all this stuff. He's still in his office. He's still a coach. He's still trying to recruit. And the same thing happened to him. I mean, he dumped those Temple kids. Now Miami's going to dump their kids too, but not for real, because Cristobal's going to have a heck of a class coming in. So what goes around comes around, Manny.
Yeah, and it's crazy, but now he can accept the Temple job. So it's just weird. It's so weird. And PJ, I mean, I brought this up before, the analogy of this. I mean, think about this for a second. When you're negotiating with a new coach while your current coach is still recruiting and running the team, I liken that to, essentially what Miami did was they told Manny Diaz to take care of the kids. So Manny Diaz is home feeding the kids their bottles and helping them get to sleep and tucking them into bed while they're on the West Coast cheating on them with somebody else. To me, it was crazy. It was like, oh, my wife's home with the kids and I'm out on the West Coast dancing with this other girl. I mean, maybe they were at Urban Meyer's, establishment where he was doing a little dancing. I don't know. But to me, that's so dirty to not fire Manny while you're negotiating with somebody else. So if Mario said no, then they would have just come home to Manny and said, I love my wife. You know what I mean? That's just a weird thing. So weird.
Yep. And if that happened, if Cristobal couldn't come to terms, and they come back to Manny and say, Manny, we'd still like you to be a coach. And I wouldn't be surprised if Manny says, screw you, dump it. Or give me $6 million a year and I'll stick around. So it's not a good situation, but let's hope Mario Cristobal does the best thing and recruits well, and they have a winning program. Because, frankly, I want to see the three big schools in the state do well. If they do well, that means they're recruiting well, the kids are staying in school, they're passing, they're staying eligible, and they can play. So let's hope that happens.
Yeah, let's hope for the best as we take a look at this. I do want to make a cool note here about Cincinnati, and I want to shout out Greg, longtime listener and fan of the show. Appreciate you, Greg, for bringing this up here. Luke Fickell's son is actually on the roster at Cincinnati. Landon Fickell is an offensive lineman who's a freshman coming from Moeller High School in Cincinnati, Ohio. So Luke Fickell's son actually plays on Cincinnati's team. And I want to go one step further here. Guess who else's son plays for Luke Fickell at Cincinnati? Urban Meyer's son, Nate, is a sophomore wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bearcats.
Mm-hmm. Very good.
So,
Urban. Urban's in the news down here this week. We got the Jaguars, through another bad effort. But are we talking about that? Are we?
We can talk. We got a couple minutes to talk about how bad Jacksonville is.
Well, I really don't want to say how bad. But, I mean, if you saw the game, you saw the Rams game.
Yeah.
You saw they were carved up by a sensational quarterback. I've been a Matt Stafford quarterback guy ever since he was at Georgia. I mean, I don't know how he lasted as many years as he did at Detroit. I thought he was going to get killed up there the way he got his ass pounded. But man, he carved him up good. And Trevor Lawrence, he gets off the bench here and he says, "Listen, he's in the news." And he says, Trevor Lawrence says, I don't know the exact words. He says, Robinson has to be in the ball game all the time.
Yeah.
He says, I'm in the ebb and the flow of the game. I need him in there all the time.
Yeah.
And one of Urban's deals is that if you put the ball on the ground, you come out of the game, and the position coach tells you when you can go back in the game. Well, Robinson's not going to fumble that many times. If he made one mistake, damn, don't keep him on the sideline. Get his ass back in there. Lawrence needs to be more freer. I've said this for the last 5 weeks in a row. He needs to play more freer. He needs to get more in touch with the game. He needs to start making some of his own decisions. And he can't do it without Robinson. I mean, Carlos Hyde is a good reserve. Let's face it. He's all right. But, we live and die with what Robinson does. If he gets 100 yards, chances are Jags are going to win. If he gets 25 or 30 yards and has 2 catches for 10 yards, we're not going to win the game. Lawrence, he went on record. You can probably look it up, Google it, and he says, I got to play freer, and I got to have Robinson in the game the whole time. So there you are in a nutshell what happened this last week.
Yeah, and it's reality. He does need to be on the field. James Robinson is the best player. I liken him to Sean Tucker at Syracuse. The offensive line's not that good, but he's still good. The team's not that good, but he's still good. The offense as a whole is not that good, but he's still good. James Robinson saved my butt in fantasy football numerous times last year. This man's getting a couple touchdowns and a loss. He's getting 100 yards and a loss. He was so consistent on a team that was inconsistent. Jacksonville won 1 game last year. This year they won 2. They've done almost absolutely nothing, and James Robinson's still relevant. So I agree with Trevor Lawrence 100,000 million%. Why would you keep the only guy that Jaguars fans want to watch off the field?
Got to have him on the field. And, Urban's really being chewed up down here. There's a lot of people that are not happy with Urban, but I guess you got to give him a chance. I mean, he knew how tough it was going to be coming in here. He'd never coached a pro game before, and he's coaching men, not kids, and he's not going to be as dominant with men as he is with kids. So the team is not afraid of Urban anymore. The player's not afraid of Urban anymore. So Urban's going to have a big, long winter to think over some things and hope that he makes the good decision going forward here, because we can't keep having these 2-15 or 1-16 seasons. It isn't going to work, because Chad is just going to lose his behind here. He could probably sell a team for $500 million now anyway, but that's not what he wants to do. He wants a winner here in Jacksonville, and I know he wants to stay here. So Jags got to do better. Trevor Lawrence needs to be on the field, and so does James Robinson.
Yeah, and if Detroit wins a couple more games, Jacksonville's got a shot at the number 1 pick again.
Yeah.
It's a try.
I don't know who's that going to be, but it's not going to be a quarterback.
No, it's going to have to be an offensive lineman. Honestly, they're going to have to make moves to protect Trevor Lawrence. I don't know what it is, because the offensive line's been an issue for the last couple of years, just really in staying healthy. So I look at the offensive line and I say that's an issue. I look at, the receiving core hasn't been up to snuff on what I think is good young talent. And then, obviously they can stand to get better in their secondary, where they drafted Jalen Ramsey and that didn't work out. And then they drafted C.J. Henderson and that didn't work out. And, the Telvin Smith drama, but they have Miles Jack and they have, Caleb Von Chasen and some other guys. And then you look at the interior of the D-line and Taven Bryan and those guys, stuff like that. That didn't work out. There's so many issues this team has. I don't even know if they have a good long snapper. I mean, I don't know what Jacksonville is doing, but it's not working. And I just, the only saving grace that the Jacksonville Jaguars have is that the Houston Texans are a bigger dumpster fire in the AFC South. They're a bigger problematic team. And that's the only saving grace of this season. Because again, here we are, the AFC South wide open. The Tennessee Titans don't have their best player in Derrick Henry. The Indianapolis Colts are okay. Houston is a mess, and Jacksonville still can't win. Jacksonville's had so many chances to win an abysmal division, and they're worse than the worst team in their division. And that, to me, is so sad, because you can argue that the AFC South is the worst division in the NFL. Outside of the fact that the Titans just find ways to win with or without Derrick Henry, this division's horrible, and Jacksonville is worse than the worst team. And that, to me, is so frustrating.
That's true. I mean, that's true. Tennessee's not the same team without Derrick Henry. He certainly monopolizes the game when he's there. I like to see what Trevor Lawrence proclaimed. I'd like to see him play freer. I'd like to see him involve all his offensive stars. The way I felt about Chenault. To me, you've got to target Chenault at least 10 times in a game. Maybe get 6 or 7 catches. The man needs the ball in his hand. And you can't do it with these little quick 2-yard flare-outs. Get him down the field. I sound like a broken record. I mean, I say the same thing every week. But now we got the James Robinson deal, and Urban may have to come off one of his rules. He says, well, if James fumbles, he's going to come out of the game. Well, if James fumbles, he's going to stay in the game. So let's hope that the Jaguars wake up and play a good game going forward here, because I'd like to see him win 1 or 2 more games at least.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see here. Greg brought up there are 2 stud pass rushers predicted to be taken at the top of the draft. Williams, a wide receiver from Alabama, will also be a difference maker in the NFL. The Jaguars seem to have multiple needs. So yeah, I mean, there's a Bama receiver there for you. There's pass rushing help there for you as well. I mean, there's ways to help fill out this roster, and I just hope that Jacksonville does it right. PJ, as always, I appreciate you. And next Thursday, December 16th, Papa Joe and I will be here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora exclusively on your airwaves and on your video feeds to tell you our predicted winners of every single bowl game from beginning to the College Football Playoff Championship. So pack it in, kids, because on the 16th, we do all the bowl games, and on the 17th, bowl season officially begins. Papa Joe, as always, I love you and I appreciate you. Thank you for everything. And just so you know, to make you feel a little bit better about Florida's current status right now, I want to throw this out to you. During our conversation, I asked the world, do you like the hire of Billy Napier as Florida Gators head coach? And I got 100% yes, 0% no. In the early polling, the majority of people like it. So that's where we're at right now.
Well, there's another Alabama point you can bring up. Alabama has the best team and probably the best players. But one of their best players, Mechie, the wide receiver, is lost for the rest of the season. So their 2-headed monster on the wideouts is only going to be down to 1. But with Bama, it's the next guy up. So you'll have another fast wide out there. So have a good show. I'll catch you later.
All right, sounds good. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
That coming from Papa Joe here, where sports meets that thing called life on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. And as always, we appreciate PJ for being a part of the broadcast. So thank you so much to Papa Joe for being a part of this show on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. So with that being said, we're going to take a step aside for a fast break here inside of the Cafe Kubal studios. Cafe Kubal, available for you at 3501 James Street, 401 South Salina Street, 208 North Townsend Street, where Kubal Co-works is. You can go and find them at all those locations in Syracuse, and as well as inside of Galisanos Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse, and in 343 Fayette Street's giant behemoth of a brown stripe building, welcoming in you to Manlius, where all the roads converge on Manlius, New York, 343 Fayette Street, Manlius for Cafe Kubal, and their newest location and first ever drive-thru at the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road at Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. So make sure you check them out there. With that being said, we'll take a fast break on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora. When we spin back around, I will be joined by fellow sportscaster whose show I was just on, going into the ACC and AAC championship games this past Saturday, December 4th. I went live from Cincinnati, Ohio on Christopher Heidel's show on Herb FM Radio, and now I have the opportunity to return the favor Right after this fast break, Chris Heidel joins Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets life. Avicoli's, located on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, has been your trusted neighbor for decades. Located just steps from Liverpool High School, we're happy to have the Liverpool Warriors on-site, on-location broadcast at Avicoli's through Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every single month, featuring student athletes, coaches, and administration throughout the year from Liverpool High School. Head out to Avicoli's today on the corner of Route 57 and Wetzel Road in Liverpool, New York, open Tuesday through Sunday for lunch, dinner, and drinks. We'd love to see you out there. And of course, you can call them at 315-622-5100 for takeout, delivery, and catering. That's 315-622-5100. And also find them on myavicolis.com. That's myavicollis.com. Having peace of mind when you're out of town that your furry-loving friend is safe and sound means taking them to Canine Campground, because we all know that when it comes to the love of our pets, it goes well beyond the call of duty to make sure they're safe and sound. Right, Lily? So take a ride to 242 Johnson Street in East Syracuse, New York, and see Canine Campground and where your dog will be staying, in the classic cabin, the executive cabin, the grand cabin, or of course the luxury cabin, because if you know Lily, you know she loves luxury. Now you don't have to wait to the last minute to find a family member or a friend that'll take your dog for a few days. Call Canine Campground at 315-299-4013. That's 315-299-4013. Their drop-off and pickup times are Monday through Sunday. Check K9campground.com for more information. That's the letter K, the number 9, and campground spelled with a K.com. K9campground.com.
When you're going out of town, bring your dog to Canine Campground.
PB&J's Lunchbox, the food truck that you love finding all throughout Central and Upstate New York, now has a street-side cafe. So when you're craving their traditional favorites as well as their out-of-box amazing menu items, you can now head to 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. Located just minutes from the highway, the Thruway, Destiny USA, and Onondaga Lake Parkway, PB&J's Lunchbox Street-Side Cafe is there for you Monday through Saturday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner all throughout the day. Get breakfast for dinner, dinner for lunch, whatever you fancy, including their award-winning grilled peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Find them at 663 Old Liverpool Road in Liverpool, New York. PB&J's Lunchbox, where we love to know what's in your lunchbox. As a patient, what do we want? To be cared for, to be listened to, and to have someone walk us through the process on our path to victory. Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics does all of those things beautifully, with Dr. Mark Petropoli leading the team on 791 West Genesee Street in Skaneateles, New York, located minutes from beautiful Skaneateles Lake. Whatever your injury may be from head to toe, preventative care, rehab, physical therapy, laser therapy, and surgery are all available at Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, where they care about us, they listen to us, and they understand that everyone's path to victory is a little bit different. Let them help you on yours by calling 315-685-7544 to make your appointment today. That's 315-685-7544. And find out more information at victorysportsmedicine.com. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, where sports meets that thing called life. Appreciate you being here, hanging out with us inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios. Cafe Kubal located for you on 3501 James Street as well as on 208 North Townsend Street, 401 South Salina Street in Syracuse, and of course inside of Galasanos Children's Hospital in downtown Syracuse. We appreciate everything that they're doing to work miracles for our children and for our families. So God bless to their work, and thank you. On 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, New York, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in Sweetheart Corners in North Syracuse. So thank you to Cafe Kubal for all you do, and we appreciate you so very much. So with that being said, and my trio of guests today on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora inside of these Cafe Kubal studios, next up on the docket is Mr. Chris Heidel. Chris Heidel is a fellow sportscaster in this beautiful world that I love to live in here, and he is here with us on the line right now. And so you can see his picture. For those of you here on video, you could see the picture of him here asking some questions at the ACC kickoff. We're going to be talking about the ACC and how their season ended and their championship game. We'll also be talking about the AAC, their season and their championship game, and making history with Cincinnati and the American in the college football playoff, breaking the glass ceiling that should have never existed. So, with that being said, let's bring in Chris Heidel of Herb FM Radio. Chris, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Good morning, everybody in Syracuse. Hope you guys are staying warm. 29 degrees. That's pretty chilly. I'm sorry. It's just not. I'm not ready for the cold weather yet.
Yeah, we are. We're currently. It snowed every night. So for the last 3. So it snowed, and I was like, okay. Then it snowed again, and then last night it definitely snowed. So now I got a nice little plush, kind of like cotton ball looking backyard, and I'm excited. I'm excited for the season, as long as it's off the roads and there's no ice. I love snow around my house. I just don't like it in my way. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I agree. Like after a while, I like snow in the first couple times, but by the third or fourth time, I'm like, okay, I'm done. Let's go. Let's get some warm weather in here. Let's go down to Florida and enjoy ourselves and get away for a couple days.
Yeah, so it'll be definitely good, and I'm going to be trying to sneak my way down to Florida soon. The second home of Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the great state of Florida. So, Chris, you and I got to talk on Championship Saturday, and obviously a couple games were played on Friday, but Championship Week we got to talk and had a conversation about the AAC going into the Cincinnati game up against Houston that I was in Cincinnati, Ohio for, and then of course Pitts and Wake Forest playing in Charlotte for the ACC. Following Championship Week, what were your thoughts when you look back on it? I mean, obviously, all of the 10 conferences were doing their thing. So when you look back on Championship Week, what are maybe some notes that you took?
Well, I took some notes. I'm really impressed by Cincinnati, how they basically ran the gauntlet and basically, won 13 straight, games this year, and, they had some ups and downs. Like 1 week they played Navy and they almost lost to Navy down in Annapolis, but they pulled it out. But they've learned from diversity and all that stuff, and now they're in the college football playoff, and they have to take on the big boy in Alabama, and I think they can take Alabama, because Alabama's not used to a higher power offense like Cincinnati, and I think the only team they lost to Alabama was to Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M, and I think Texas A&M might have a very good offense. So we'll see how that Cotton Bowl is going to be looking like on December 31st.
Yeah, I'm excited to see this matchup, and Cincinnati, the only undefeated team in America of the 10 conferences plus the independents in Division 1A FBS. I don't know how you take the only undefeated team and tell them that they don't belong. But in the college football playoff selection committee day of their selection show and whatnot, right after Saturday, right after December 4th, after the Cincinnati win over Houston, I was flying in between flights. By the grace of God, my flights timed perfectly. I landed from my first flight and had about 20 minutes before the selection show. I was able to watch it on my phone and hope that the committee did the right thing. Bring me into still up there, Baylor, Notre Dame. There were a few teams that were being spoken about. There was a notion that if Oklahoma State, with a loss, had defeated Baylor, that they would have argued them over Cincinnati. When you were hearing all of the talking heads talk about Baylor, Notre Dame, and Oklahoma State over Cincinnati, what was your take on all that?
I just think I think it's with people just need to give Cincinnati some respect there, because if you look at it, Baylor, basically won the Big 12 championship, but Baylor basically had a couple losses. They have some tough games in the Big 12, but I feel like they finally, with this whole situation with Cincinnati, finally showed that this is not a one-sided college football playoff. We don't have just yes, we have two SEC schools. To me, I don't think it should have two SEC schools in the college football playoff. I think they should make a rule now. If you play each other in the conference championship game, I don't care what ranking you are in the college football playoff, you're officially eliminated. And I think that should be the rule. But they somehow make, the SEC like, oh, it's okay to have two teams in, but everybody else, you're going to fight for the last couple spots. And I think that's just not right. And then with, Oklahoma State, I wasn't really impressed by Oklahoma State. Yes, I saw them last year, against Miami in the bowl game, the Cheez-It Bowl, but that was just a Miami team that was injured pretty much. And I feel like, Oklahoma State shouldn't even be mentioned in the top four. And with Notre Dame, now it comes to play. Notre Dame needs to go into a conference, because last year they were just 1 year in the ACC because of the pandemic. They should start thinking about going into a conference, but they're not going to do that because the NBC package, the NBC sports package is, it's not going to be on NBC Sports anymore. It's going to be on Peacock. But it's like they're still making a lot of money on their sports package.
Yeah, and I think the thing, and you cure, and I've said this before on the show, you cure the kind of strange treatment of Notre Dame. You cure that whole preferential kind of weird. They get 100% of TV money, but nobody else got it because they made a deal that nobody else was smart enough to make back in the day. The way that you cure the Notre Dame conversation is you say, if you are an independent, you're ineligible for the college football playoff. That's how you cure it. You say that you're ineligible. You have to join a conference in order to be eligible for the college football playoff, because you have to be in the conference championship game. I don't understand how a team doesn't play in a conference championship game and makes the college football playoff. Alabama a couple of years ago didn't play in their conference championship and they made the college football playoff. That to me doesn't make any sense. If Cincinnati wasn't in it, they would have no shot. I mean, it just doesn't make logical sense to me. There should be a prerequisite of two things. You have to at least play in your conference championship game to qualify for the college football playoff, and you have to be part of a conference.
Exactly. I totally agree with that. And I think, the committee, with Bill, no offense, Bill Hancock's a nice guy. Met him a couple times. I think he's pretty cool. He's an Oklahoma grad. He can't talk about his Sooners anytime soon because he can't. He doesn't want to feel biased towards them. But I'm like, okay. But I feel like they need to make a better change in this whole. Yes, they want to expand the playoff. That's great. But they're going to do the same thing, and it's going to be the same outcome. Instead of having two SEC schools, you're gonna what? It's going to be expanded to 6 or 8, whatever it is. There's going to be like 4 or 5 more SEC schools in there. Stop getting the SEC special privileges. You should give everybody the same opportunity to get more teams in the college football playoff. What is the SEC? What is the SEC so great? Why? Because they have great coaches? Okay, that's great. But every conference has their blue bloods, and they should be the ones getting an opportunity to get in there.
Yeah, and the thing about it too is 4 is not enough, because if there is this quote unquote Power 5, then one of the ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big 10, and Pac-12 is going to be left out, and then you have no space for the quote unquote Group of 5, which I can't stand that moniker. But when you have 10 conferences plus the independents with Notre Dame, and BYU is now going to be joining the Big 12. When you look at Notre Dame having got in a couple times already, you look at the SEC, typically has 2 spots. So you got Notre Dame and independent going in there. You got 2 SEC teams in there. That leaves 1 spot for the ACC, the Big 10, the Big 12, and the Pac-12 to fight over, not even including the American Athletic. It's not a fair system. It's not big enough. If you had 12, then you could take the conference champion of all 10 Division I FBS conferences and then have 2 at-large bids, which could include Notre Dame if you needed to do that. But if you're going to make it fair and you have 10 conferences, you need to have as many spots as you have conferences, if not more. I get it. People are going to say, listen, the SEC could fill out the whole thing by itself if there was 12. I understand that. But I don't understand the importance of a conference championship game if when you play a conference championship in basketball and you win your conference tournament, you're an automatic bid to the postseason. When you play your conference championship in college football, nothing happens. I don't think that's fair.
No, and I agree with you. I think it's not fair at all. And I feel like I don't think there's any equal playing field for anybody. And this is why you see these coaches carousel right now of coaches leaving to go to different schools because or getting fired or being let go, and because these athletic directors are like, okay, you're not in the college football playoff. Wow, you went to a bowl game. Okay, we're gonna get rid of you now. It's like there's no it's like more turnover now in the college football, this year, or the last couple of years than I've seen since I was a kid. I never heard of a whole freaking, like before the bowl season, like we have new coaches and new places by the time the first bowl game kicks off. It's weird.
Yeah, and so, I mean, we look at college football and the ever-changing culture, the expansion hopefully will happen, but Cincinnati and the American Athletic making history, your thoughts, you've covered the American Athletic. What's your take on the fact that this glass ceiling that allegedly existed, there was some other talking heads that were saying, I thought that the whole thing was a group of 5 team was never going to be allowed to make it, which I think is total BS. Why even play FBS football? So when you look back on this and Cincinnati and the American making it, what does it mean to you historically that no matter what happens and no matter where Cincinnati goes in the future, because they're supposed to go to the Big 12, the fact that the American Athletics logo will always be a part of the college football playoff history?
Well, and also be part of Cincinnati's history too, because they have now, having that, they're part of something in a conference, and they're always going to remember Cincinnati making it to the college football playoff. And it also will help the American Athletic Conference too, because now all these new teams coming in, to fill the void for Central Florida and Houston and Cincinnati, and I think Tulsa's going to, and all that stuff. It makes it folks now the new new American Athletic Conference going and saying, "Well, Cincinnati did it, we can do it." And we have seen Central Florida in the last couple of years. Only on the knocking on the door. Now it's like, the commissioner you're going to have later on the show from the AAC. He must be right now happy as like he just saw Christmas morning. He's right now in the driver's seat because now he's the conference that everybody's talking about. A couple of years ago, when they expanded from the Big 12, the Big East to the American Conference, people are like, oh, okay, there's no Miami, there's no Virginia Tech in there, but now he has a great conference, and now everybody wants to be part of it now.
Yeah, Mike Aresco, and I argue this all the time, the American Athletic Conference was affected more by realignment in 2012 than any other conference in America. They were left with 3 schools, really no identity. Cincinnati was there, and South Florida, that didn't make sense with the Big East moniker. UConn did. Temple was just coming back in to the conference after having been in, left, and were returning with Steve Adazio at the time. So they had 4 schools, and they could have given up. Mike could have said, listen, the Big East, the Catholic 7 took the name, they took the moniker, there's no Big East football anymore. I'm going to just pack it up, let these 4 schools go somewhere, and I'm going to find another job. He could have easily laid down. He didn't. He took 4 schools, turned it into 12, then got to 13, Wichita State coming in. And you look at Navy coming in for football after being independent for over 100 years. Wichita State joining with everything, all the successes they had. Houston being good in basketball and Cincinnati being good in basketball. And other teams stepping up here and doing some good things. Then we saw UCF go undefeated for 2 seasons. We saw what Cincinnati has done this year and last year. We saw the successes of Houston then and now. We saw, Navy coming in and how successful they were initially. We saw UCF with George O'Leary and what he was doing before Scott Frost came in. So all these things started happening, and all these coaches got poached. And every single year, the quote-unquote Power 5 seemingly is going after the coaches of the American Athletic. He built a conference out of nothing. He legitimately took realignment and found success, then got hit again this year in 2021 and found 6 schools to come in as full members for football and everything else. And for the first time ever, the American Athletic Conference is going to be jam-packed, stacked, and they got, membership like the ACC and the SEC numbers-wise. They've put themselves in really good footing for the future. I love the UTSA move, and, as Rice is growing and Charlotte's growing, but the UTSA move is great immediately. UAB move is great immediately. North Texas coming in, they've done some good things as well. And then FAU, you look at that with UCF coming out, FAU now gives you that market again. And Willie Taggart returns after being at South Florida. So, every single time Mike and the American have been hit, they've risen. And I would say that, if there's a most courageous of the year award, if there's a Phoenix of the decade award, if there's a who handled realignment the best award, the American Athletic Conference exists today because people like Mike Aresco never gave up. So for him to be in the college football playoff right now, it's just a true testament to good people doing good things and believing in themselves. And I could not be happier for a conference or a commissioner as I am for the American and Mike Aresco because of what they did when everybody else thought they'd just lay down and die.
Well, the conference is on a good high right now. You had Houston made it to the Final Four last year in basketball. Now you got Cincinnati made it to the Final Four in the college football playoff. That's pretty good for building up a conference. Now everybody will be like, wow, okay, now Houston's going off to the Big 12, this year or next year. So it's going to be, now he's like, okay, well, let's build on it. And I think he's going to find a way to keep the momentum going.
And the other thing, too, Memphis won the NIT with Penny Hardaway. So, there's a lot of things that have happened. And on the baseball side of things, the Americans sent a lot of success there and made some runs there. So there's a lot of good to be had. And to switch gears with Chris Heidel of Herb FM Sports Radio to the ACC, happy to have Chris here with us on Wake Up Call inside the Cafe Kubal studios. The ACC, before we get into the actual play of the conference, I spoke with Papa Joe, our guest, before about this, and the irony and the craziness, spoke with Isaac Elford as well, about Manny Diaz a couple years ago, accepted a job at Temple. Mark Richt resigns at Miami. Before the plane even touches down at Temple, Manny Diaz turns down the job that he had just accepted and agreed to terms on. He comes back to Miami because they say, screw Temple, we want you back. He comes back to them after he left for Temple, and then as he's there now, they're talking to Mario Cristobal. While he's still coaching and recruiting, they kick him out, and ironically, the Temple job is now available again. What are your thoughts?
I think that I feel like it was a repeat of a couple years ago because he got Miami taking on Washington State in the Sun Bowl. And I talked to Barry Rivas the other day, the executive director of the Sun Bowl, a couple weeks ago on my program. I was like, last time you had Miami in the Sun Bowl, you had a blizzard. And he goes, I know. I was like, why? I was like, are you going to pick Miami again? He goes, well, I don't know yet. I was like, well, if you do pick Miami, make sure you have a shovel and a plow because the last couple times Miami's been there, has been a blizzard for you guys. So, but it's really strange, and I think it's wrong for what Miami did to Manny Diaz. Yes, Manny did take him to bowl games the last couple of years. Last year was a pandemic. He took him to the Cheez-It Bowl. But you're in Miami. It's like the same thing as Florida State and Florida. You're expected to play in big games like the Cotton Bowl, the Sugar Bowl, the Orange Bowl, even the national championship game. And going to these bowl games, yeah, it's fun that you guys go to these bowl games, but Miami looks for something better. And what they did to him is, even my brother, who's a big Miami Hurricane fan, said to me the other day it was wrong for what they did to him. You just don't let him come to the office on Monday and say, hey, by the way, you're fired. And we're bringing in your new coach from Oregon who used to play for Miami, but I heard that he's a good recruiter, but he can't get his players to play. So Miami's back in the same boat again. So I just feel like down there, Miami needs to somehow figure out how to change the football program. I know a couple of weeks ago they had a meeting between the alumni of the football program, had some secret meeting that I haven't heard any of the transcripts about. what came out of that whole thing. But they got the athletic director fired. Blake is, James Blake got fired right afterwards, and now Diaz is fired, and now they're bringing in, Mario there, and we'll see how he does. And I'm looking forward to meet the guy at the ACC kickoff. And I think it's pretty cool to talk to a former Cane, but that's the past, dude. Let's bring on the future. And I feel like Miami is still stuck in 1985.
And you know what? I mean, it's the reality. I mean, Miami and just how they did the Manny Diaz thing in the beginning, and that was kind of just strange and dirty. But think about it. Manny Diaz spurned Temple after giving them his word, and then Miami spurned him after giving him their word. So it kind of all came back around. And if I'm Mario Cristobal, I wouldn't be trusting anything in Miami. It just seemed dirty right now. And I feel bad for Manny Diaz. I mean, they touted the fact that not only did they hire him, but he was the first Hispanic coach that had ever been hired at the University of Miami, and da-da-da-da. And now he's gone, and, it's just ridiculous. So I feel bad for Manny, and I hope that, I hope he gets a good job. I hope he finds a good place and good footing. And, I was a fan, so I hope things go well for Manny Diaz.
Yeah.
To speak on the conference itself, though, when we take a look at the ACC, you go down the line. Louisville, I really think Scott Satterfield is not for long in Louisville because of the whole they found out that he was talking to South Carolina. And I feel like the marriage was over before it started. It's like he cheated when he was on the honeymoon. So, to me, that Louisville job's going to be open at some point. Clausen's good in Wake Forest. Dave Doran's good at NC State. Dabo's good in Clemson. Dino, for whatever reason, is still here in Syracuse. So, Boston College has Jeff. He's doing okay. So I think most of the Atlantic is all right, but I think the Satterfield thing with Louisville is going to be kind of coming to an end at some point soon. Virginia, Broncos steps down. Virginia Tech, they get rid of Justin Fuente, and they've now made their hire. I think the David Cutcliffe Duke thing could be rocky. Georgia Tech and Jeff Collins, I don't know if they're going to have a lot of patience. So we're going to see change in the ACC coaching-wise. What are your thoughts on the fact that, Fuente's gone, Bronco's gone, Satterfield at some point soon could be gone, Cutcliffe maybe could be gone, Dino after this year, I would imagine, is probably going to be gone at Syracuse. So we're going to we're seeing change, and we're going to continue to see it in the ACC, I think.
Well, I did get a press release from Duke a week ago. David Cutcliffe and Duke separately parted ways. They basically agreed that it's time for him to go.
Yeah.
And so now Duke is open. I heard that Jason Garrett might be one of those coaches, might show up at Duke. And that's going to be very interesting because his brother is a very good college coach at Brown. And I think Jason Garrett had a hard time in the NFL, because of the Cowboys situation. And when he was with the Giants, he was basically the guinea, the guy that gets fired quickly because of the name on on the staff. Then he got that, so Duke's looking for a new guy. What else is out there? Pittsburgh, Pat Meduzzi, he saved his job, with this year going to winning the ACC championship game and everything. I felt like if he didn't get to the championship game and win it this year, I feel like Pitt people are very picky people because I'm trying to learn more about the city of Pittsburgh besides the Steelers and Ravens. But I feel like up there they don't understand Pitt football, but they want a winner. Somehow it's strange. Like the Pitt Panthers is like the fourth sport up there in Pittsburgh between the Penguins and the Steelers and the Pirates and all that stuff. And now they win the ACC championship game. I'd like to see what next year brings to Heinz Field for the Panthers. Are they going to have sellouts, or are they going to have the same problem every year? Like they can't fill that stadium.
Yeah, and you bring up the David Cutcliffe thing. They have, agreed to part ways there, which is unfortunate. He's a quarterback guru, but, he's trained the Mannings and he's sent a bunch of guys to the NFL. But it's Duke just has been not, everybody knows Duke is a basketball school, but Duke's football there's been no relevancy lately, and it's sad because I like David Cutcliffe. I like his brain. I like what he has to say. I love talking to him. So, I hope that things work out for him. I think there's a million different jobs he could do and be successful at. So I look forward to what he could do there. But I do want to get your thoughts really quick on Syracuse and the fact that Dino's coming back for year 7.
Yeah, well, I feel like how much longer is Syracuse football and the Syracuse administration going to deal with Dino Bears? Because every year I see like Dino. It's like I saw your stat a couple of weeks ago. It was like they went to a bowl game, they won the bowl game. The last couple of years has been like they've been going backwards.
Yeah.
And then this year I felt like they were going forward because they had some big wins. Yes, they did lose to Florida State on a last-minute field goal. It helped the Noles get off that snide. But I don't know how much longer the people in Syracuse are going to say, okay, well, we're done with him. It's the same thing down in Miami. This is almost like a Miami situation up in Syracuse. Are they going to do the same thing to Dino, like bring him in one day and all of a sudden, some former Syracuse alumni who is like some great coach in the NFL or somewhere is going to pop up and say, oh, Dino, you're gone. Dino's a nice guy. I like talking to him. I feel like when I talk to him, I feel like I want to put on a helmet and start playing football for him because he doesn't go around the bush. He goes straight forward, and I think people like that up in Syracuse. He doesn't mind saying what he wants to say, because that's Dino. That's Dino, and Dino wants to do what Dino wants to do. And I feel like Dino is right now got everybody in Syracuse to believe in. Okay, we're going to be better next year. And we'll see, you got, people leaving, so you got a new class coming in. This National Signing Day is coming up next Wednesday. We'll see what Syracuse brings in. They need to bring some 4-star recruits in. And, they open up, I think they open up the season. When do they open up next year? I know they play Notre Dame. That's going to be a tough game at home in the Dome.
Yeah.
And that's in, December or something like that.
Yeah, they're playing in the Dome on October 20th.
They need to. Here it is. I'm pulling up here. Here's Syracuse's schedule. Okay, you got a home game. You go to UConn, the first game of the year, on September 10th. Yeah, that's a win. And this must be changing around probably. Then you got Purdue as your non-conference game at home against Purdue in the Dome. That's going to be cool. Purdue coming up to play Syracuse. That's going to be really neat. Seeing a Big Ten school going to Syracuse, you don't see a Big Ten school go to Syracuse that much. And then you got Wagner and you got Notre Dame. So that's interesting right there. And then you got the ACC schedules. You got to go to Clemson again. Got to go to Pittsburgh. And then you have to go to Wake Forest. So those are 3, and Boston College. There's 4 ACC road games right there. That's going to be very hard for Dino to see how he could. Clemson's coming off with coaches leaving. Like Venables is gone, and I think Elliott's on the verge of becoming the Cavaliers coach. So it's going to be very interesting in 2022, and maybe will be interesting to see what after National Signing Day.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting. The fans have gotten very fatigued by what's going on right now, and I'm surprised that things haven't changed at this point. I like Dino. I have a good relationship with Dino. I also have a lot of questions.
He loves you, dude. He loves you like anything. Like, we were at the ACC kickoff, and he was like, Dan, I haven't seen you in a while, Dan. How you doing, Dan? I was like, okay, are we going to hug here?
Well, I mean, I would like to, there's certain things I'd like to see get better, and I'd like to see change. I want him to win. I told him that when I met him, and I want that for him. I'm confused as to where this team is going with 14 players in the transfer portal. But with that being said, Chris, I want to thank you so much. Really quick here as we get set for Mike Aresco, let everybody know how they can get in touch with you.
Well, you can watch us on, we're on 3 of the major, social media sites. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, and also on YouTube. My show is now on Tuesday nights at 7:30, Sports Talk with Chris Heidel. And next week, we got the executive director of the Fenway Bowl, Fred Olson, joining us because SMU is taking on another American athletic conference, member of American Conference, taking on a ACC school in Virginia. We're going to talk to him. I know we got Mike James coming on from the Jim Thorpe Award next week. Maybe we're going to see how he's going to talk about who won the Jim Thorpe Award, and talk about how that award is really cool, because that's something that you should do, Dan, because it talks about what the three things you follow by. How a player is a great person to the society. He helps out with the where he lives and where he plays. And plus he's a good Christian and he knows how to work hard. So those are three criteria of the Jim Thorpe Award, and I think that's something that you should look into.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I appreciate that. Beyond sports, who you are as a human being, always more important to me than anything else. So with that being said, Chris Heidel, Chris, thank you for coming on the show today. Thank you for having me during championship week. And I look forward to some other great things that we can do as we get set for everything going on. And I'm excited for Cincinnati and the American and our coverage of them. So have a great day. Be safe, be well, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
All right, buddy. I want to wish everybody happy holidays and Merry Christmas. Everybody up there in Syracuse, be safe. And if you've been good to Santa, hopefully you get everything you want for Christmas. Yeah, that's a good thing. All right?
Awesome. Take care.
All right, buddy.
Take care. That coming from Chris Heidel once again on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, where sports meets that thing called life. You can check him out on Herb FM Sports Radio, as he was speaking about before, and you can search that on social media. So with that being said, we're going to take a step aside from inside the Cafe Kubal studio. When we come back, my one-on-one video conversation with the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference on the heels of Cincinnati and the conference making history in the college football playoff. We'll hear from the commish right after this.
Cafe Kubal Mobile Cafe brings the cafe experience to you. We'll roll out to your neighborhood or office, ready to serve our locally crafted espresso bar to our loyal patrons. Inquire at cafekubal.com. Cafe Kubal, coffee for the soul.
This is Amy from Mother's Cupboard, home of the whole frittata. We are open daily 6 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. For takeout orders, call 315-432-0942 and tune in to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our monthly food challenge and try our Wake Up Call signature menu item available 7 days a week. Here at Mother's Cupboard, we are Central New York, and it's our honor to serve you.
Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory, located on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, is home to over 40 flavors with more than 200 flavors in their total wheelhouse. Sky's the limit for this sweet and savory Central New York company. Keep it local at your parties, fundraisers, wedding showers, baby showers, and more by calling 315-450-MA-PA. That's 315-450-6272 for popcorn bars with custom flavors and colors at your upcoming event. Make sure to visit them on 201 7th North Street in Liverpool, New York. And for more information, go to maandpazsnacks.com. Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. How corny are you?
Here at Progressive Dental, we understand the importance of regular dental visits and preventive care. Cleanings and checkups are essential to good oral health. We have multiple locations in the Southern Tier, so come visit us in Binghamton, Enwell, Kirkwood, Montrose, and Norwich. For self-pay non-insured patients, we offer the Smile Plan, which covers all of your cleanings, x-rays, and exams for an affordable yearly price. Call 607-754-2273 or 607-754-CARE to make an appointment today. For more information, visit our website at progressivedentalny.com.
The Millhouse Market, located on 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York, is absolutely positively worth the drive every single time. Download the app on the Google Play or Apple App Store, and you'll have everything at your fingertips, from their homemade breads and desserts to quinoa bowls, rice bowls, salads, brick oven pizzas, and sandwiches named after the families that helped to settle today's Pulaski. Ingrained in our community and ingrained in our taste buds, the Millhouse Market, open Tuesday through Saturday from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. and on Sundays from 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. Head out there today and show them how much you appreciate local, and also great for Christmas and the holiday season, buying gifts for people that you can't find anywhere else. Head into their general store for local products from local companies, from syrups to honeys to locally made soaps and jewelry and different awesome children's toys and so many things, and seasonings, sauces for your meals and whatnot. The Millhouse Market pays it forward by helping out local companies in their general store. They have the indoor dining and the drive-up window to grab your food and go, keeping it easy, keeping us safe, and being as incredible as they have been. The Millhouse Market is absolutely positively worth the drive. 3790 New York 13 in Pulaski, New York. Head out there today. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt, as well as on facebook.com/wakeupcalldt and youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, where we are live with you Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern time, as well as on facebook.com/live-now-DET. So plenty of ways to tune in. We're here with the commissioner of the American Athletic Conference, Mike Aresco. Him and I were both just in Cincinnati, Ohio this past weekend for an incredible game between Houston and Cincinnati. Cincinnati goes 13-0. They become the AAC champions for the second season in a row and spent the last 3 seasons inside of the AAC championship game. So an awesome time for Cincinnati. And Mike, you and I have talked about this. We've banged the drum for Cincinnati and for the American in general over the years with what UCF had done a few years back. Now we can finally say the American is a college football playoff conference this year, which is incredible. So first and foremost, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Dan. You've been very supportive of the conference. I think you understood that we had good teams. Be honest with you, I doubted it would happen because so many things had to fall into place, right? The G5 doesn't get the kind of consideration I think it deserves. And this year we were not to be denied. Now things had to happen. Oregon had to lose. Oklahoma State had to lose. Baylor had to lose. And not that those teams should have been ahead of Cincinnati. You saw that as the season played out. But, they always hold strength of schedule against us. And I think it's unfair. But the point is, Cincinnati did something remarkable. I mean, it's tough enough to go undefeated in 1 year, let alone 2 years in a row. And think about it. There's no other major college undefeated team this year, not one. So think about what that achievement is. And you played Notre Dame at Notre Dame, Indiana at Indiana when they were probably better than they became as the season went on. You had to get through a tough American schedule. I don't care what anybody says. Playing at Navy is never easy. Yeah. There are always upsets along the way. East Carolina, they were pumped up for that game. Houston, 11-1. SMU had a great season. It was a dangerous team. You had to play at Tulane, which almost beat Oklahoma at Oklahoma. There were, you played UCF and scored 50 points. You played Temple and scored 50 points. They did everything they were asked to do. And also, I think, I know the pundits will probably assume Alabama will romp, but this is a tough veteran, Bearcat team with size and speed. They've got NFL players all over the place. The secondary is probably all NFL players, and they've been cohesive. The other thing is they played together for many years. I don't think the stage will be too big. It wasn't too big at South Bend, and that's about as big as it gets in our sport. It wasn't too big at the Peach Bowl last year, and they'll have their share of fans, in Texas along with Alabama's. And I think they're going to give them a heck of a game. Obviously we want them to win. I think they certainly are capable of winning. But don't sell these Bearcats short. Luke keeps them focused. He's a great coach, great guy, and I just couldn't be happier for him, Dan.
It's been a long road. You were the Big East commissioner, and then the Catholic Seven took the name, and then you started the American Athletic Conference. You went through the Big East losing an opportunity, to kind of have a path when the BCS was there. And now you see the American. I mean, it's been a long road for you fighting to have respect in the BCS and then fighting to have respect in the college football playoff. For you personally, I know that you're not Cincinnati and I know that you're not Luke Fickell and whatnot, but do you feel almost like a breath of fresh air with everything that you've fought for and what you had to navigate through with the Big East not having a direct path and now the American not having a direct path, but seeing an American athletic team get in? I mean, I would imagine for you, this has got to be a special moment with all the adversity that you've fought against as a commissioner.
Oh, no question, Dan. There's a great sense of satisfaction, because you're right. There have been a lot of obstacles. And I think one of the things we had to do is sort of endure the barbs, the humiliating moments, and the people who didn't have confidence in us and didn't believe in us and didn't think we had the credibility necessary. And I always thought we did. I always thought our teams were outstanding. I just didn't think they got the respect they deserve. This Cincinnati championship means a lot to them, and they've earned it. And it's all credit to them. But it also validates what some of our other teams did too. I feel bad for the teams that never had the opportunity that the Bearcats are going to have. You saw what UCF did with Auburn, and Auburn had beaten both teams that played in the national championship game. You saw last year, they went toe-to-toe with Georgia, and some of the writers still don't understand that they had more key players missing than Georgia did. They had two of their best defensive. Ahmad Gardner didn't play, and James Wiggins is in the NFL, and their center and their left tackle got thrown out of the game, and their top running back, Jared Dokes, didn't play, but you see how good Jerome Ford is. He's not a backup anymore. But the point is, they played with as many people gone, key people, as probably more than Georgia did. And Kirby Smart credited them. He said this was an outstanding. He knows how lucky he was to win, and he said this was a quality football team. He said people take shots at their conference, but he said this was a really, really good team. And I think that's what Nick Saban and Alabama are going to say after the game. I'm not a prophet. I can't predict. I don't do the betting lines. I hate all that. I have no interest in it. But the point is, this is going to be, I think, a really competitive game. And again, it gives you just a lot of satisfaction because again, when we started, no one gave us a chance to do anything, let alone ever get to this point. And we won a national championship in basketball with UConn when they were in our league. We won women's basketball championships with UConn. We got to the Final Four with Houston last year. This had eluded us, and we thought we had worthy teams that just didn't get a shot. I must say, as I said earlier, Dan, this format just didn't seem to allow for a team, from our conference getting in. The fact that it did is tremendous. And, the fact that they're leaving, people have said to me, well, is it bittersweet that they will be leaving in a year or two, not next year, probably the year after? I said, no, it really isn't. And I can say that honestly. It got all washed away with the pride I feel in the Bearcats and what they did. And they were great to me in Cincinnati this weekend. They all kept saying how much the conference had meant to them and how much it had helped them get to where they are. I love Luke Fickell. He's absolutely great. And Luke and I were able to talk, in Cincinnati after the game and then after the press conference very briefly. Luke's terrific. And I just have, the greatest respect for Cincinnati and a lot of fond memories of being there and seeing them help build the league over 10 years. And while they did a lot for us, we did a lot for them. So, I just feel this will always be a legacy of this conference for as long as this conference is around. It will have produced a CFP team, which no one thought possible. It's an historic moment, Dan. It really is.
You make me nervous when you say, you said last time we talked 10 years from now, I probably won't be here. And then you talk about, the future of the conference and whatnot. You've done so much to build this. I can't imagine the American without you. And I would imagine everything the Americans navigated through that they've more than proven that they can stay around. So Mike, we got to keep you as long as we can. And the American Athletic has worked to rise out of what some people considered insurmountable odds. I would imagine the American has already proven that it's resilient.
Oh, I don't think there's any question, and nothing I said was meant to suggest that we wouldn't be around. But with realignment, you never know how you're going to look down the road. We didn't think we'd be looking this way right now. But first of all, thanks for the very kind words. At some point, you got to hang it up. I don't know when that'll be, but I'm certainly energized now about getting the new schools in and doing what we did last time. I wouldn't bet against us. I think we can. Got some great schools coming in. You saw what UTSA did this year. UAB, the Rice is investing. North Texas. We know what FAU has been doing. We know that Charlotte has a lot of potential. So it's going to be a challenge that I welcome. But at some point, everything ends, and I think they'll find a really good successor. They'll find someone who wants to embrace the values of this conference. And Dan, the value has been trying to be dynamic and trying to challenge. You never could have gotten here if we didn't have the goal. Every school was infused with that goal, with that notion. We can get there. We can make ourselves as good as anyone. And I'm a realist as well as obviously someone who tries to have a vision, but the vision can't be too divorced from reality. I thought this conference had the resources, that we would get. A lot of our kids are hard scrabble. They've got a chip on their shoulder. They weren't 5 stars, but they're good players and they get developed by good coaches. And I thought with the markets we had, with the recruiting potential that we had, with all the things we had, with the TV exposure, which I can't say enough about, the ESPN exposure has been terrific. ABC did our championship game for the 7th straight time. With all that in place, I thought we had a chance to compete. I really did. Now, you never know whether it's going to happen or not, but the teams invested. They bought into this P6 plan. It was real. And, sure, some of them are moving on. That's the nature of realignment. That's life. You can't deal with things that you'd like to have happen. You have to deal with things that actually happen. And it's okay. In the end, we took 6 schools, and I hate both ends of it, Dan. I don't like having to take schools. I don't like losing any. But again, the conference will always have this in its DNA and in its legacy. And I think it gives, as I said, it gives encouragement to everybody who's technically a G5. And I think we're hopeful of getting rid of that designation down the road, especially in the potential new playoff scheme. But I think everyone, benefits from this. I think there's a tremendous sense of encouragement here with this happening because no one thought it could.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing to see that logo up there representing the American Athletic Conference and representing the fact that, this glass ceiling that was put there has been burst through by the conference, burst through by Cincinnati. For you in the future of the college football playoff and expansion and whatnot, I know you've been a part of these talks and these conversations. Where are we at right now? How viable is this that we could see 12? What have been the meetings like, from the inside out? Because you obviously have spoken to the committee over time to try and state the case of your conference, of UCF a few years ago, of Cincinnati last year and this year, and you're also a part of the expansion talks. So what can you tell us about the college football playoff?
Well, there's an interesting dynamic in the room, and I can only share so much, but clearly there was momentum, and it sort of stalled, as you know. And there are some commissioners who favored the 5+1 plan, which we are opposed to. We just feel it doesn't create a playoff with credibility, with the kind of legitimacy you'd want. Because Dan, I don't know if you can find a playoff that gives select conferences or select divisions or select leagues, a privilege when you come down to one thing to have a bowl tie-in. That's based on brand. It's based on attendance potential. It's based on TV ratings. But a playoff's different. There has to be a level of integrity with a playoff. It really comes down to that. It's not about our conference. It's not about. Now, it is about getting rid of the G5 label also and making it all FBS. That's the way it should be. And that's part of what we talk about with a merit-based system, with equalization. You wouldn't have that divide, which is very unfair and harmful to this group. But it's not about just our conference. It's about having a fair playoff. We would benefit, even a 5+1, I guess technically would benefit us because we'd probably be the one at most years, if not all. We would have been 7 out of the last 9 years, of our conference's existence, the 9 years. We'd have been that team. But that's not the point. If it's not a fair playoff, I don't want any part of it, and I don't think our conference wants any part of it. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I have a lot of respect for people in the room. I think there still is a majority that favors the 6-6 plan, which I think was a good plan developed by people, who really were devoted to the sport, Bob and Greg, and they obviously could have easily opted for something different. Jack Swarbrick as well, and then Craig Thompson. I thought they did a great job. I applaud what they did. We'll see where it goes. I hope we can get it done. I do echo Bob, though. It's getting to the point where you're just not sure. I've always been cautiously optimistic, but we are, as they say, running out of runway. We're running out of time in order to get it done in years 11 and 12, meaning 24 and 25. And if not, then you have to go back to the drawing board and try to do. You don't even have a playoff after the 12 years. You got to restart it. And then at that point, I'm just not sure what kind of scenario or what kind of dynamic there will be. But I'm hopeful still. We're going to meet at the game.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. I'm excited about, what is, no matter what, Cincinnati is in it this year. You have representation. History will always include the American Athletic Conference now in the college football playoff, in the sense of whatever happens from here, it's already been done. It's stated, it happened, it's real. Did you feel like a perfect storm was needed? There was still an argument for Notre Dame, and Cincinnati had beaten them. There was the argument that Baylor helped by beating Oklahoma State. There was the argument of, what if Ohio State hadn't lost to Michigan, and where would Michigan have stood? And in this, that, and the third, the Oregon and Utah. So what I was hearing from some people is, wow, Cincinnati got lucky, where Cincinnati's the only undefeated team in the FBS of 130 schools, I believe, this season. So I don't think luck had anything to do with it. How do you view that? That they're saying, well, Cincinnati did what they were supposed to do, but then they got help from everybody else. Alabama doesn't need that help. Georgia doesn't need that help. Michigan and Ohio State don't need that help. So why does Cincinnati need everybody else to boost them up, I guess, is the question.
Well, I think it's basically how the committee's viewed the strength of schedule business and how they view our teams. I mean, when you go up to Notre Dame and win and win the way they did, a 26-game winning streak, snap, you're a pretty good team. And the eye test tells you how good a team you are. The performance tells you how good a team you are. It's because our conference just hasn't had the level of respect. And we thought we had overcome a lot of that. As you know, Dan, we've been pretty good for a lot of years now. Our top teams have played really well in the top bowl games. And the one thing no one's going to be able to say after this game, however it turns out, is that Alabama didn't care about being in the game, right? That's what we deal with, right? Well, Georgia didn't really play. They didn't care. Well, they did care, and so did Auburn. Gus Malzahn said so. But there's always that, that little asterisk. Cincinnati absolutely deserves this, Dan. They absolutely earned it. And the question, though, is we all know, being, again, as I said earlier, I'm a realist. Things still had to fall into place for them because, as you know, if a P5 team has a comparable record, they're probably going to get picked even if they don't appear to be as good a team. I didn't think Oregon was as good as Cincinnati. I didn't think necessarily Oklahoma State was as well balanced as Cincinnati. I didn't think that Baylor was as good as Cincinnati. I didn't think any of these teams were as good as Cincinnati. But on the other hand, if certain things had not broken for Cincinnati, no matter all their efforts, who knows? I mean, look at UCF. Look at the outstanding team they had. Now, fortunately, Cincinnati had scheduled the road game at Notre Dame. Without that, I mean, who knows what would have happened? I mean, you just never know. And that was a huge thing. And we didn't have that with UCF back in 17 and 18. But you know how good that team was. Now, if Mackenzie Milton hadn't gotten hurt, darn well that team would have been, pretty close. I mean, I don't know if they made it. Maybe not. But at that point, they had beaten Pitt that year, 45, I think, to 14. It wasn't even that close. It was 45-7 at one point. And Notre Dame beat Pitt 19-14. I mean, come on. There's a good example right there. But again, I've always tried to just talk about facts. I respect the committee. I always have. I think they're good people. They try to do the right thing. But I just wanted to, I scheduled college football for 35 years, and I had to look at it pretty closely. I think I know the sport. I love it. I liked it when I was a little kid. And, I followed Notre Dame when I was young, and then, became just a fan of college football. So I think I know the sport, and I knew how good our teams were. That team that played Auburn, that UCF team, tons of players in the NFL from that team. When Houston, which was a really worthy team in 2015, played Temple, there were 27 players between those two teams that played in the NFL or are in the NFL. this is a talented league. It's got a lot of good players. I don't know what the future holds with the transfer portal, with NIL, with all the things that are happening in our sport, but I think we can maintain it. I think we can bring these new schools in and do what we did before. But that's why I'm just really, really happy, but also relieved, because I know a lot of things had to happen to make this. For instance, the last thing, look at the Baylor game. If Oklahoma State had won, who knows what would have happened? You'd have been sitting on the edge of your seat. Will Cincinnati maintain its place? I think they should have. But that 1 or 2 inches was absolutely critical. I was on the field. I was talking to Greg McElroy. He was going to be doing the game, the color analyst, and Greg's a great guy, and what a terrific analyst he is. And I was trying to get the score on my phone, and I couldn't get through. When everybody's in the stadium, they start filtering in. The cell phone use goes up, and you just can't get through. And finally, I did, and I saw first and goal from, I don't know, whatever it was, and second and goal, then third and goal, and then fourth and goal. And I said, holy cow. And then I thought I saw the thing flip to Baylor getting the ball. I wasn't sure. But then I called my wife. She said, yeah, the game's over. And you had to see the end to believe it. She said, it was as exciting a thing as I've seen. She said, the fella dove and almost, just a few inches short of the pylon. And I said, holy cow, son of a gun. And at that point, he took care of business and won. They would probably be in the playoff. That's when I thought, all the different hurdles had probably been met.
Final note here, because I know that you got a lot of stuff that you're going out and doing. Your first thought on the field when you handed Cincinnati the trophy?
My first thought was just how utterly elated I was, how pleased I was that this was historic. I said it, that night as I handed out the trophy, that this was an historic night in Cincinnati. I also couldn't have been more pleased to give it to Luke Fickell, who's absolutely a great guy. And, Luke has just been terrific, and he's been great to me over the years. And also to see the look on those players' faces, to say hello to Desmond Ritter. Jerome Ford was there, and he had a great game. And, I think it was Joel DeBlanco. He reminded me so much of Tyler Matakevich. He kind of has the same kind of build, tremendous player. Really, I think it was Joel, real gentleman. They've got a great group. And, the day before, we were going up to a reception. I was in Cincinnati on Friday, and the team was coming back from practice, and they didn't seem to have a care in the world. They looked very confident, very relaxed. And that's the thing about playing Alabama. That stage, I don't think won't be too big for them. They've been at Notre Dame, and they won in the toughest circumstances. They won in the Peach Bowl against a Georgia team that could have been easily in the top 5 in the country. They were, obviously in many big games over the years. They had to, squeeze out that victory over Tulsa in the championship game last year, and has a good Tulsa team. I don't think the stage is too big. I think they're going to really they've got a veteran team, which I like, a lot of seniors, a lot of guys who came back just for this opportunity, and an elite secondary, which I think in order to play Alabama, that's what you have to have. Whatever happens, you've got to have that. And teams that don't have it are just not going to be successful against Alabama. And I think this, with the varied offense they have and a quarterback who's the most experienced of the 2 quarterbacks in the game, Alabama may have the Heisman Trophy winner. But maybe Cincinnati can exploit some of the inexperience. Although he's had a whole season, he's a tremendous player. But Desmond Ritter's been around for 4 years and great experienced player. So we'll see. I don't know what's going to happen. I do think Cincinnati will acquit itself well. But to close, just the feeling that night, it was special. That's a night I'll never forget. Dan, it's an atmosphere. And this was a school where years ago you had to, in order to get a basketball ticket, you had to buy football tickets. That's what they've done. That was years and years ago. But look at the investments. The fan base was just energized, charged. This has now become a football as well as a basketball school. They'll have a great future. I know they're leaving us, but I just couldn't be prouder of them.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful moment. And like you said, the moment's not too big for them as they've already faced the SEC in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. I was at the game. You were at the game. And they pushed Georgia to the brink, and it took a last-second field goal for Georgia to win that matchup. So truly special. I can tell you I was on the field after the game, shot some video, did some things there, and then I went and I sat in the stands in silence with almost nobody in the arena except for grounds people, just to feel it again. One of the best nights of my life, and I'm truly proud. And you told me I would enjoy Nippert, and I definitely did, and it's something I'll tell my kids about. I knew when I was sitting there that day that that's something I'm going to talk about to my kids someday. So thank you. Go ahead.
Glad you that, Dan. I would love to have seen you, but, with all the rush and but one thing, fans were coming up to me and thanking me for what the conference had done for Cincinnati, and I just felt great about it. Also, the Cincinnati people couldn't have been more gracious. And again, John Cunningham, Neville Pinto, the president, they're terrific people. And as I said, I love Luke and just very, very happy for him, and looking forward to the next month. It should be fun, just to kind of savor it all and realize how unique and unusual it is. I think it's one of the best sports stories of the year, don't you think? In any sport, really, something that no one thought possible. And that's why I hope we get a great Cotton Bowl, and I think we will.
Yeah, and I'm excited and very much appreciative. Hopefully, I'll be down there in Texas for this. But as always, Mike, I appreciate all the work that you've done. This is a special moment that from the day I met you, I know you've been working towards. So congratulations to you, to the conference, to Luke, who I've covered since he came in, and to Cincinnati. I'm very happy for a lot of people, a lot of good people. And when good people succeed, it just feels different. So congratulations.
Thanks, Dan. And again, as I've said before on your show many times, you've done a great job covering us. We really appreciate the support. You were one of the people, and you proved right. You were the one who was right. You felt that this conference had a good future. This conference was worth covering. A lot of people might have said, well, they're not a P5. Why bother with them? And you never took that approach at all. And you've been great to me personally. And I hope you are in Texas. I hope you get to soak it all up just as you did with Cincinnati. And thanks again for having me. Appreciate it. And by the way, I imagine, Dan, if you don't have me on again in the month, I want to make sure I wish you, you and your family a great holiday season and a really rewarding and happy New Year. And I'll stay healthy.
Absolutely. And I send you a Merry Christmas, a Happy Holidays, and a Happy New Year. But I'll be talking with you soon, God willing. So take care of yourself. Thank you for everything. And thank you for those awesome words. And I respect every bit of it. So congratulations. Soak it up. Enjoy it. Enjoy the month. And I'll be talking with you very soon.
Oh, absolutely. I'll make myself available.
All right. Take care.
Take care.
In these unique times, there are those in our community that give us a sense of normalcy and positivity. Pizza Man on 50 Oswego Street in Baldwinsville has been here for you for over 35 years and is here now. Call 315-638-1234 or order online at pizzamanbville.com to bring those familiar tastes into your home. And remember to come see our monthly on-site broadcasts centered around the community and our Baldwinsville Bees. Pizza Man in Baldwinsville. Any way you slice it, they are always here for you.
This is Jimmer Sikowski, owner-operator of Chick-fil-A Cicero, 7916 Brewerton Road in Cicero, right in front of the Home Depot. I had a deep feeling that God wanted me to do something bigger with my life and to help people, help others. I kept putting Chick-fil-A in my life, and I realized as I was going through the franchise selection process that positively impacting the lives of others was really core to what we do here at Chick-fil-A. First of all, it starts with the food. The food is brought in fresh daily. We bring in local produce. We prepare to order in the kitchen. We hand bread our chicken. We hand spin our milkshakes. It's great food. It doesn't taste like fast food. I think the second thing is the way people feel when they come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant is different. We try to treat people with intentional kindness here, which is very different and deeper than good customer service. And so I think it feels remarkable for most people to come in a Chick-fil-A restaurant. And then lastly, the impact that we try to have in the community is very different. It's a big part of the expectation of every operator of a Chick-fil-A restaurant is that they're actively engaged in their community, they're a leader in the community, and they're making a difference. When they realize that what we're striving to do is to shine a little light in their life. That's a very, very different experience than you will have at any other quick service restaurant. And it's that remarkable experience that I think people will emotionally connect with.
I'm George Townsend of Honda City with some good advice when buying a new car. The true cost of owning a new car is determined by the appraised value when you trade it. No vehicle appraises higher than a Honda. Next, look for low APRs and deep discounts. You also want low maintenance costs and great fuel economy. That's why my advice to you is to buy a new Honda. Looking pre-owned, visit our Honda Certified Used Car Center. Honda City, 7140 Henry Clay Boulevard, Liverpool, or HondaCity-CNY.com.
It would be a pity if you don't shop at Honda City.
Our corporate purpose at Chick-fil-A is to glorify God by being faithful stewards of all that's entrusted to us and to positively influence all those who come in contact with Chick-fil-A. And what became increasingly clear from our success in Cicero is that people love Chick-fil-A. And also I think we recognized that, we had a great opportunity to grow the brand and grow our platform. I felt incredibly grateful when I was selected to be a Chick-fil-A operator. I think what it's meant for me, what I've come to realize on a very deep level is that this is a calling for me. It's not a career. It's not a job. The Lord called me to be a Chick-fil-A operator and to use these restaurants to glorify Him and to positively influence other people. I'm blessed. I'm very blessed.
Head to Chick-fil-A Clay on 3974 State Route 31 in Liverpool, New York. Welcome back here to Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on wakeupcalldt.com, your one-stop sports shop, and on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt. Proud to be hanging out with you inside of the Cafe Kubal Studios, Cafe Kubal, with locations all throughout Central and upstate New York. You can check out Cafe Kubal by going to 3501 James Street as well as 208 North Townsend Street, where Kubal Co-works is, to rent space for your business, as well as to have a little meeting area, a little podcasting headquarters, so you can get in touch with them at Kubal Co-works today, so make sure you do that. And of course, 401 South Salina Street, where I was with Fran this week, my little sister, who just accepted her opportunity to become a D1 women's lacrosse player at Stony Brook for the Seawolves. She officially signed on to do that next season, and I'm so excited for her. We got to do that at Cafe Kubal, talk about that. And, of course, inside Golisano's Children's Hospital for Cafe Kubal in downtown Syracuse, and on 343 Fayette Street in Manlius, in the giant brown stripe building that leads you into Manlius, where all the roads converge, and on the corner of Route 11 and Taft Road in North Syracuse, New York, at Sweetheart Corners in their drive-through location. So, big shout-out to Cafe Kubal. I want to thank my trio of guests today that celebrated Cincinnati and the American Athletic Conference in making history. Papa Joe, as well as fellow broadcaster Chris Heidel of Herb FM Sports Radio, and American Athletic Commissioner Mike Aresco. You can listen and watch Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora every Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Eastern Time on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt, facebook.com/wakeupcalldt, and facebook.com/livenowdt. You can also find us on mixlr.com/wakeupcalldt and on wakeupcalldt.com. You can search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora for our archives after the shows go live. You can check them out on YouTube as well as on iTunes and Apple Podcasts, MixLR, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Podbean, and Stitcher. All you have to do is search Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora on any one of your favorite podcasting platforms you see here. And, of course, you can also search one word, Wake Up Call DT. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora would like to thank our Central and Upstate New York partners for all that they do, and we implore you to go out to each of them. You can find out more information on each of our partners by going to wakeupcalldt.com's homepage and clicking on any one of their logos. Cafe Kubal, Carvel DeWitt, the Wildcat Sports Pub, Ma and Pa's Kettle Corn and Popcorn Factory. Go to Ma and Pa's popcorn.com to order anywhere in the United States. Progressive Dental, Avicoli's, Canine Camp Dog Daycare, Chick-fil-A Cicero and Chick-fil-A Clay, Canine Campground Dog Boarding, the Millhouse Market, Lemoyne Dolphins, Pizza Man, Honda City of Liverpool, PB&J's Lunchbox, Victory Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, and Mother's Cupboard. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Lemoyne Dolphins. the Lemoyne Dolphins every single Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora during the live broadcast is considered Dolphin Time, where I get to tell the stories of Lemoyne's Athletics Director Bob Beretta, as well as their coaches, student athletes, and staff members. You can see every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Eastern Time that the Lemoyne Dolphins will be featured here on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, and every first and third Wednesday you will see the Lemoyne Dolphins with the AD and DT special. That AD and DT special features Athletics Director Bob Beretta and myself, Dan Tortora. And every second and fourth Wednesday, we feature student athletes, coaches, and or staff members telling their stories and their connection to Lemoyne in the Dolphin Dive. So make sure you check that out. A big thanks to the Lemoyne Dolphins for all that they do in our community. And we implore you to go and check them out on the Lemoyne tab on wakeupcalldt.com to subscribe to our youtube.com/wakeupcalldt channel so that you can see all of our Lemoyne content, and go to LemoyneDolphins.com. Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora is also the proud multimedia marketing partner of your Marywood Pacers. It's Pacer Pride every single month on Wake Up Call with Dan Tortora, with our specials with the Pacers entitled Pacer Pride that you can find on youtube.com/wakeupcalldt by subscribing. And of course, you can watch our live broadcasts throughout the month to find out when the Pacers are going to be on with us. Marywood University featured all throughout each month with stories from Executive Director of Athletics Pat Murphy, as well as student athletes and coaches, all connected to the Marywood University Pacer program. So we appreciate them so very much. Like I said, subscribe on YouTube to find out more, and youtube.com/wakeupcalldt. Click on the Marywood tab on wakeupcalldt.com and go to marywoodpacers.com for Marywood University. With that being said, I hope you all have a fantastic day. Find us on Facebook at Wake Up Call DT, Twitter at Call DT, and Instagram at Wake Up Call _DT. And in the meantime, God